I already set mine to go out already.
Okay.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the first ever Fantasy Football Draft Q&A plus live expert draft brought to you by FFChamps.com. I am Jim Day, your host tonight. You can follow me on Twitter at FantasyTaz. And joining me is Mr. Bill Enright, also from FF Champs. Bill, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Jim. I'm really excited. Fantasy draft season is here. I am drafting right now live in the Fantasy Football World Championships, $50,000 grand prize for the online championship. I have the number 4th pick. I don't know who's going to fall to me. Do I pull the trigger on Ezekiel Elliott? We'll see, but the draft is starting. The show is starting. We're going to have a question and answer period for anyone that's watching live on YouTube. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm ready to get started.
Absolutely, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. You got a lot of great drafters in this draft with you, guys that have been playing high stakes for a long time and winning. So it's definitely going to be some tough competition. And, hopefully it gives us something, gives the people watching something to learn from. Hopefully that's what we're ultimately trying to do with this. We want people to learn from what's going on. These are people, folks, that are, they're putting a lot of money on. They do a lot of drafts, and most of these guys have a lot of wins behind their names. So, of course, first 2 picks off the board. Team number 1 goes with Kamara, and then team number 2 goes with Barkley. So, we see all kinds of those. Well, the top 3 have been pretty much consistent with CMC now. Of course, as you mentioned, Zeke has been going a little all over the place at this point as people try to nail down what's going on with him.
And Christian McCaffrey went 3, and I was on the clock with the 4th pick, and I took Ezekiel Elliott. I can't pass up on who I think can be the top running back in this year's class. I know Saquon's great. I know Kamara is really good. I know Christian McCaffrey they're all viable options for anyone in those top 4 picks. But there are 4 guys to me this year, and I'm not going to let Elliott pass me at the 4 spot just because he's holding out. And him and Jerry Jones are having this drama session back and forth in the media, and who's getting a new contract and who is Zeke kind of comments. Zeke is going to play this season, and if I get 13 games out of him, there will be excellent 13 games.
I'm right with you. I haven't really moved him down. The only thing I said when I talked about this offline with you just before is that him and David Johnson have gone back to back for me, basically from the beginning. But there have been some drafts where I've taken David Johnson over him right now. But it's more diversification than I don't feel Zeke is going to be there. I have been saying for the last month that I think Zeke is going to be back in camp. Dallas wants him in. He's going to be in there. There's no way Jerry Jones wants to lose week 1 against the Giants in his home stadium again. He just doesn't want that to happen.
Absolutely not. Quick update on this draft. After I took Ezekiel Elliott, 4 of the next 5 picks, all wide receivers with David Johnson wedged in there. It went DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams. David Johnson went all the way number 7, and then we followed up Julio Jones and Michael Thomas. So again, and here's another wide receiver coming off the board in Odell Beckham Jr. So the 5 of the last 6 picks, all wide receivers. And keep in mind, in the Fantasy Football World Championship format, you do have to start 3 wide receivers.
Oh, absolutely. And you're going to see a lot of wide receivers go early in these drafts. Some of these guys really do try to push the envelope of the 0 RB draft. And, it seems to have worked. There's been a lot of teams that have won big money at full-time fantasy in these leagues going with the wide receiver early, games plan strategy. So it definitely plays into it. I have a hard time just going straight wide receiver to start a draft, but I'm not. Usually that's every year, but this year I'm not so much against it because I've come to the point where all the running backs in round 2 are what I call the quicksand of fantasy football this year. And what I mean by that is all of the running backs taken in the 2nd round and even some in the early 3rd, every single one of them has a major issue or a major concern, whether it be injury with Fournette and Cook and guys like that, or whether it, be Damian Williams. Can he actually hold up to 16 games? There's a lot of things going on in that 2nd round running back group that every single one of them has a problem. Gurley, Gordon. Well, now Gordon slid into the 3rd round. So, all of these guys have issues. And I've been tending to really go around that round and, trying to stay away from those guys because of it.
I hear you, and I'm going to let the draft fall to me. We'll see if these next, starting the second round now, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, just for the last 2 picks, along with Juju Smith-Schuster. So I'm a person that I'm never going to pigeonhole myself into round 2. I have to take a tight end, or I have to take a running back, or I have to take wide receiver. I'm going to let the draft come to me. I have my FFChamps.com draft tracker software right up and running while I'm doing this draft. I can actually share my screen, can't I?
Yes, you can.
I'm going to go ahead and do that.
And then right after you do that, we have a couple of questions in the chat that we're going to bring up and answer for these people.
So let me know if you can see my screen here.
I can in a second. Hold on. There we go.
So there you go. There's the FF Champs draft tracker. Now, as I'm going around on this draft, I'll try to zoom in a little bit there for you. So we already see a lot of these wide receivers are already been off the board. And there's still people in my second and third tier at the running back position. And Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, I'd rather take a Le'Veon Bell or a James Conner, or if Nick Chubb falls to me, that would be absolutely really exciting. But we'll see as Le'Veon Bell just comes off the board, second pick in the second round. So again, I'm going to let the draft come to me. I'm all about value. I'm all about tier-based drafting. That's one of our 10 commandments for fantasy football at FFChamps.com. Don't force yourself into making a pick that you don't like. If someone that I like is really there in my second tier, in my third tier, I'm not going to jump to my fourth tier of wide receivers in passing up on my second tier of running backs.
Okay, I'm going to take that off screen. Let's answer a couple questions from the crowd. Let's see. Justin Eller wants to know James Conner or Le'Veon Bell in PPR. And I'll toss it to you, Bill. Which way are you going?
I'm all about James Conner this year, Jim. I'm thinking about taking him 6th overall if DeAndre Hopkins is already off the board at the number 5 pick. I'm not going to take David Johnson. I'm going all in on James Conner in as many leagues as I can get him in, because we've seen what the Pittsburgh Steelers running backs can do. And sure, they have Jalen Samuels, but you know what? You draft him as a handcuff. Conner was a top 5 running back when he was healthy for the first 12 weeks of the season last year. I'm not going to pass up on that opportunity. So Le'Veon Bell, slow-paced offense with the New York Jets. With Adam Gase, he's slower than a snail when he calling plays. I don't know if Sam Darnold is ready to take that next step, although we did see really promising moves from him as a rookie. But for me, if I'm drafting between Le'Veon Bell and James Conner, I'm going to take the guy that replaced Bell in the Pittsburgh Steelers backfield, and that's James Conner.
And I'm with you because we just did a mock draft for Sports Illustrated last week, 14-team draft, where I took Conner over Bell in the first round. And actually, Sean Childs, who is one of the fantasy experts from Full-Time Fantasy, kind of roasted me on it. Said, I would never do that if he had taken Bell, and this would have been a top 14. And you know what? I don't see it. I'm with you. I think Conner. Look, the one thing I always come back to is that Conner, when he was healthy, his numbers across the board were better than Le'Veon Bell's in any time that Bell was with Pittsburgh. Conner's numbers all across the board were better than Bell's. Now, I'm not saying he's a better running back, but it really comes down to this system. It works. Every guy they plug in as their every down back puts up major fantasy numbers, and I am taking Conner. If Bell outplays him, fine, I'll live with it, but I just don't see it in an Adam Gase offense. Just like you were saying, they ran the fewest number of plays in Miami last year, and if you look at all the team numbers for the Jets, they're all 26th, 27th in offense, things like that. Well, one of the teams that was worse in every category was Miami with Adam Gase. So, I'm not really sure I buy into it. It's kind of nuts. So, but I'm with you. I'm going James Conner over him as well. We have another.
Jim, by the way, you sniped me in that draft, in that Sports Illustrated mock draft. We did 14-teamer. I believe it's up on the site somewhere with draft reviews. You sniped me. I wanted Conner. I was the next pick after you, and ended up going wide receiver, because you took Conner right in front of me.
Well, there. Good. I'm glad to hear it. I love to do those kinds of things. Hey, look, we all get sniped.
I'm on deck right now, and right now on my board, I have Keenan Allen in my second tier for wide receivers, and I have Damian Williams in my third tier for running backs. I went Zeke in the first pick. I'm not crazy about Keenan Allen this year. Mike Evans just went. I thought one of these other wide receivers would fall to me, like maybe a Tyreek Hill. I've seen him go late in the second round. I'm surprised that Travis Kelce went as early as he did. I'm not going to take George Kittle or Zach Ertz, but I'm going to go ahead and pick Damian Williams. I believe in the Chiefs offense. I believe in running backs from Andy Reid's system. Since the dawn of time, running backs in the PPR format have top 5 potential, and the minimum, the floor is a top 15 running back. So I'm going to take Damian Williams. I'll draft one of his handcuffs later, and I'm absolutely satisfied with that pick.
Oh, I'm totally with you. I've been on Damian Williams for forever. Even in Buffalo, he showed some glimpses. Never enough to really do anything, but some glimpses of things I liked from a running back. So now I do think that we're going to see some good things from him in this offense, more like what we saw last year. I definitely think that he's going to continue that. And the only way he loses that job to me is injury. So I'm not going to worry about the injury with him. I'm going to say balls to the wall. Let's go for it. And I've been all over him.
I know you said we had some more questions from the YouTube chat.
We're coming awesome. Right now.
Fire them away. Let's help out the people.
Taylor Douglas wants to know, in a 12-team PPR, he can keep 2 of these at their draft round. Tyler Boyd at 9, Kenny Golladay at 10, or Eric Ebron at 14. All 3 good, solid choices. But for me, I'd jump in here right away, and I'd love to have the Boyd-Golladay combination at 9 and 10. You can always get Ebron back in the draft. And not that you couldn't get those guys, but you're not going to have to invest so heavily in Ebron as you will with Boyd and Golladay.
I'm with you there. And if he starts 3 wide receivers, he's essentially giving his team 2 wide receiver 2s for his fantasy roster. So I like that move as well. Draft Ebron later on. With Andrew Luck, this whole situation with his calf and his ankle, is that scaring you off some of these Colts players?
Oh, absolutely it is. I mean, this is what I keep saying. This is the kind of runaround we got from the Colts with the shoulder injury. Yeah. It was like 430 days after the actual injury before they finally sent him in to get surgery. he played through all of that, and it just got worse and worse, and then finally they sent him in for surgery. So, yeah, this is concerning. This has been since OTAs. It's not like it just started happening in preseason.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I feel bad for Colts fans. I feel bad for people that had maybe some best ball drafts early on in the offseason, or maybe they had their drafts a couple of weeks ago as we're broadcasting live here August 19th. I think a lot of drafts are probably the next 2 weekends. But this is the risk that you have when you draft early. These injuries pop up. Melvin Gordon and Ezekiel Elliott are not still under contract. Antonio Brown is – who knows what the heck is going on with him and his helmet, and he's leaving camp and he's coming back and his feet are frostbitten in July. It's absolutely absurd, the Antonio Brown drama that we're dealing with right now. But the Andrew Luck stuff is kind of going under the radar, but I think that could be a really big deal.
I'm totally with you. I am concerned. I want to see him on the field before the start of the season in some capacity. I don't care if it's in practice or something. Get on the field, show us you can still play before week 1, because a lot of people are buying into him and drafting him early, as usually the 3rd, 4th quarterback off the board. And that could really put a hurting on a lot of players. So, it's going to be interesting to see. So where are we at in the draft right now? We're in the 3rd round. Oh, we just had your pick. So why don't you tell everybody why you went with the guy you went with?
So I went with Julian Edelman. And to me, there's no better option in the 3rd round if you're in a PPR league than Julian Edelman. Amari Cooper went before him. Stephon Diggs. I would have liked to see Adam Thielen here, but in a PPR format, Julian Edelman, I'm absolutely fine with him as my wide receiver 1. He's as consistent as they come. I know I'm locked in every single week for 8 catches, 80 yards. If he scores a touchdown, that's even better. I'll take the 16 to 22 points every single week. Pair him up with Zeke and Damian Williams, and then we'll see who I get later on in the draft as well.
I'm right there with you again with Edelman. Man, we're on the same page so far. And I hate to do that because I hate agreeing with my coach all the time, but I think he's being so undervalued it isn't funny. We saw last year in the playoffs that even when teams know he is the only option, they can't stop him. He just finds his ways to get open, and him and Brady are on such the same wavelength that it doesn't matter. And they just continue to produce. And I love Edelman. Been grabbing him in a lot of my drafts. So if he does go down, I'll be kind of screwed. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
I just shared my screen. I pulled up the draft board on the Full-Time Fantasy Play FFWC website. I think it's really cool. The software is great. It's so easy to draft teams. It's a lot of fun. They have online championships, live in-person fantasy football world championships with major big-time prizes. Sports Illustrated is getting involved this year, sponsoring the event. There's going to be a big Super Bowl party at the Super Bowl in Miami. You can draft live in Las Vegas at the Real World Suite at the Palms Hotel. It's no joke. I think the prize is what? The grand prize, 150 grand this year?
Yeah, 150 grand. Plus, not only that, it's if you've never been to Vegas for these live drafts, they are amazing. You walk into a big room and all you see is draft tables all around you and all these people getting ready to draft. The energy is so huge. Oh, it was so much fun. Plus the live draft parties to watch the opening night game and everything else that goes on. It's such a great and unique weekend. If you've never done it, it's definitely something I would recommend.
So this is kind of the whole main draft screen where you have the chat room. I was going to point as if that would do anything. If you can see my mouse over in the top right over here, you have the draft chat. You have your running picks up here. You have all your players over here, your free agents. You can sort, obviously, by position. You can check out your own team to see who you already drafted. You can see on my squad, Zeke, Damian Williams, Julian Edelman. You can go over here to the draft board and see who kind of a color-coded example. So it's an awesome software. I think it's great to draft from. It's really organized. It's clean. It's easy. And there's drafts happening all the time. They also have a free mock draft contest that I think is really cool. Practice makes perfect. So check out Play FFWC. Jim, I think you have a promo code or a link that the people can go to as well.
Oh, we got all kinds of things coming up. I'm trying to get to them all. And we will. We got a long show ahead of us. We'll get them all up, folks, plenty of times during the show. But right now, what I want to do is we do have some more questions in here, so I want to jump in here. My Ball has a question, and we want to go to him. Let's see. Sam Darnold or Jimmy G for Dynasty? This is a great question. Jimmy G is, a lot of people still buying into him, and he just hasn't been able to really get it done on the field. And this preseason so far has looked terrible, having a terrible camp. He had a terrible game tonight. Just couldn't seem to be on the same page with his receivers.
Yep.
Dante Pettis, who everybody considered to be the number one, has had a terrible camp. He can't hold on to the ball, which is something he's never had a problem with before. He's always had great hands, but all of a sudden now he can't catch the ball coming from Garoppolo. They don't seem to be on the same page, the two of them. So, it's really kind of nuts what's going on there. And so Darnold, as you mentioned before, at the end of last year, after he got injured and missed a couple weeks and came back, those last 4 games or so, he played great football.
Yes.
He really showed that, he's got to step up here. And I'm telling you, my choice right here out of these two, I'm going with Sam Darnold. Over Jimmy G. Jimmy G has not shown me anything yet.
We're going to disagree, and that's the first time tonight, which is always a good thing. Difference of opinions, it doesn't hurt. You get 2 great analysis. I'm not saying Jim's wrong. I'm just saying I'd rather go with Jimmy G, and it's really one simple reason. I believe in Kyle Shanahan more than I believe in Adam Gase. So it's less about the player and more about the coaching and the system. I think the 49ers are building something really great, and the Jets always screw something up. Now, I know there's some people in the chat room. Maybe Scott Atkins is out there somewhere listening, but he knows it's true. The Jets always find something to screw things up. And the 49ers, I think they're a team on the rise. The Jets fans think their team's on a rise, but I'm up here in North Jersey. Something always happens with the New York Jets. So I'm going to go with Jimmy G instead of Sam Darnold.
Well, I will tell you this, and I find this an interesting fact. Last year, Nick Mullins outscored Jimmy G when he came in.
Yep.
3rd string quarterback, nobody'd ever heard from.
That's true.
Came out of nowhere and did better than Jimmy G did. And again, I'm not, look, he can get to that point. I think he's got all the attributes to be a top quarterback, but I think there's just something missing, and I'm just not sure what it is. I've always liked Darnold. He's, to me, in last year's draft, I mean, I had Baker ahead of him. I love Baker. But I think Darnold was number 2 coming out of the draft class last year, and I think he's going to be a solid quarterback going forward. I don't envision Adam Gase being his coach for long. I'm not a gaze guy, but
Okay.
so hopefully that change will be better for him. So it'll be interesting. We do have another question coming up here, so we'll do that, and then we'll go back to the draft and
Awesome.
talk a little bit about the draft. Question from Justin Eller. He wants to pick 2 in a PPR. Oh, and he picks one of my most hated people. Fournette, Devontae Freeman, Aaron Jones, or Chris Carson. Which 2 would you go with in a PPR?
I'm going to go with Chris Carson. I
picked 2.
have been all over Chris Carson all summer long. He's one of my top sleepers on the Our Guys list on FFChamps.com. Check out the article. I just posted it last week. I'm all in with no team ran the ball more than the Seattle Seahawks last year. I think it was like 570, and the next closest team was like 485. I don't know. It was almost, I think it was like 65. I'm terrible at math. 65 or 70 more carries the Seahawks ran than the next closest team in terms of rushing attempts. So Rashard Penny did not look very good in the preseason this year. Chris Carson, they say they want to get him more involved in the passing attack. So I'm absolutely keeping Chris Carson. And I do expect a bounce back year for Leonard Fournette. Last year, not only was he injured, but his entire offensive line was injured. They were so desperate, they signed Eric Flowers off the street after the Giants cut him. He's one of the worst offensive tackles in the entire NFL. So I'm expecting a big bounce back year from Leonard Fournette. So for me, it's Chris Carson and Leonard Fournette. I know they're not exactly the prototypical pass catching backs, and you're in a PPR league, but for me, those 2 are the top guys.
And I just can't get behind Fournette. It's not that the man's not talented. When he's on the field, he's talented as hell. But the injuries just scare me away. And if he ends up having a good season, I'll live with it. But those injuries, year after year, the soft tissue injuries, just are tough. And then when you add the idiocy on top of that, it just really pushes me away from him. I love Devontae Freeman this year. I think he's my bounce back, comeback player, whatever you want to call it, of the year. I think he's in that great offense for him. They say he's 100% healthy. Take it for what it's worth, freaking coach speak. But he's looking good. He seems to be doing well in camp. All the beat writers say he looks like he's in great shape. So I think he's going to have a nice bounce back season. And then behind him, I do like Chris Carson. And he's probably a safer bet, but I think I'm going to go with Aaron Jones.
Okay.
If this team gets smart and actually uses him the way they should use him, Aaron Jones is talented as hell and can do everything they need him to do. So I like Aaron Jones just for the touchdown factors alone. What he did in such a short period of time last year with touchdowns is huge in this offense. So I like him. Again, it's a tough one. And, not that we didn't give you enough to think about, Justin, but of course, out of the 4 players you listed, we each took 2. So there you go. I hope that helped anyway, somehow. So let's keep going. We got some more going on. Oh, I do want to put up the link for the draft somebody just asked for. I saw that. For some reason, it's not letting me put the link in the chat, so I'll have to figure that out, guys. This is the first time of us using this software, so there might be some little things here and there, but we're trying to get it going.
We can try to put it in the YouTube chat if you want.
I tried that too. It wouldn't let me do it there. That's what I got to check. It might be the YouTube chat that's stopping it. So
YouTube might not allow it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it does if you have the permission set up that way. I have to check that.
All right.
For next time we do this.
Deck.
Okay. That's what we want to do. Get back to the draft anyway.
For the last 5 picks, Marlon Mack, Josh Jacobs, Chris Carson, Derrick Henry. So for the last 5 picks, all running backs, Robert Woods was snuck in there. So like I said before, I'm going to let the draft fall to me. I figured that since a lot of the guys on the back end took wide receivers, they'd now be taking running backs. So now maybe it's the time for me to be able to snipe one of these wide receivers that have fallen into the 4th round. Brandon Cooks, Alshon Jeffrey, James White is available as well. And
I speaking for me, I'd go with Cooks. He's just been so consistent wherever he is, and he's just always putting up good numbers. Oh, Cooks is gone.
Oh, Brandon Cooks is gone? Maybe I missed it.
Team 11 in the 3rd round.
Oh, Brandon Cooks is gone. See, I missed that. I was talking my butt off, and I wasn't able to.
Well, you concentrate on the pick, and I'll get into some more with these guys here while you're picking.
I mean, Jim, I just want to quickly say, I always wait on my quarterback, but at what time does the Patrick Mahomes slide or slip stop? Because we're in the 4th round, about to be the 5th round, and I'm close to pulling the trigger. Not right now, but if he's there the next round, I might be really close to pulling the trigger.
If he was there next round, I would pull the trigger. I'm not kidding. Absolutely would, especially since you got Damian Williams. What a nice stack to start. In the fifth round, you can't go wrong. I'm sorry. I'm with you. I'd like to draft quarterbacks late too, especially with all the value picks at quarterback this year, as everybody wants to play with the shiny new toys like Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, when guys like Phillip Rivers and Tom Brady are coming off the board, 15 rounds later. What the heck?
So I ended up picking Alshon Jeffrey. There was a big drop-off for me, Jim, and this is what fantasy players have to pay attention to when they're looking at their cheat sheet. To me, Alshon Jeffrey was in that last group of tier for a wide receiver 2. Some of the other guys were Tyler Boyd, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, Allen Robinson. I wasn't crazy about them. To me, Alshon Jeffrey is a legitimate wide receiver 2 for fantasy football. So there are some running backs. I did some math in my head real quickly that I think I can get in the next round if maybe Patrick Mahomes is already gone. So I like the running backs enough where I pivoted to wide receiver and said, you know what? There's a big drop off here. I'm going to grab Jeffrey. He's now my wide receiver 2. And I still have the benefit of getting one of those running backs in my flex that I like in my next tier.
Well, it's kind of funny you picked Jeffrey. As a matter of fact, we just did a whole thing for full-time fantasy where a bunch of us got together and named him as our comeback player of the year and gave our reasons why. So nice pick there. Jeffrey should be in a prime place here. The only problem is going to be what happens if Wentz goes down again. Are you really comfortable with him if Nate Sudfeld is under center?
Josh McCown, they signed him.
Well, I know they signed Josh McCown, but only because Nate Sudfeld was hurt. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Here's a big problem. We have a major issue. For those that follow me on FFChamps over the years, they know I'm a caffeine addict. And my coffee's empty already. It's only 9:30. We're only in the 4th round of this draft. I have a lot of work to do tonight, and I'm already out of my coffee here. So I'm going to have to reinstall my Nespresso machine right on my desk to make sure that the caffeine is just constantly flowing through my body, through my blood vessels to keep me energized and focused on what's going on here.
Yeah, I don't drink coffee. For me, it's always Mountain Dew. Probably one of the reasons I look the way I do is because I love Mountain Dew, but never got into coffee. I love the smell of it when it's ground up, but I can't drink it for anything.
I've never once had a sip of Mountain Dew in my life.
Never. Oh man, I love Mountain Dew.
I can't tell you what a Mountain Dew or a Dr. Pepper tastes like. Never had any kind of those drinks. Maybe you add up all the Coca-Cola or all the Pepsi in my entire life that I've ever had, and it amounts to like one can.
Wow.
I don't like the combination. I don't like the sweetness. I don't like it.
Well, there you go. I grew up with it. It was always, I have a pretty big family, and, we always did things together, and it was always a cooler with just cans of soda, and that's how we grew up. So we got another question here from John Path, Mr. Truck himself. He wants to know Darnold or Trubisky as a QB2 in Superflex. He has Mahomes already. Wow, kind of hard to go wrong there. It's a tough one. Yeah,
I like Trubisky. I like Trubisky a lot this year. I think he can be one of those guys that takes a big step forward in fantasy. He adds enough in the rushing capacity where he makes up for some of his errant throws. But in fantasy football, you'll take those big rushing attempts or these rushing yards that Trubisky can get. I like his weapons this year. I think he takes a really big jump.
Yeah, it's really close. Like I said, I too like Darnold a lot. But, yeah, the weapons around him outside of Bell, and I like Robbie Anderson, but he's still not the prototypical number one complete all-around wide receiver. He's a good wide receiver, don't get me wrong, and I have him on quite a few fantasy teams, but he's just not that prototypical number one who can take all the defense on his shoulders and still put up big numbers. Yep. And the rest of the wide receivers, I like Enunwa. He's shown flashes, but he's never been consistent, never stayed healthy consistently. So there's a lot of things going on there. We have, let's see, I think I saw another question in here. Maybe not. Okay, so let's keep talking. So I heard you were on deck again.
I am.
So let's talk about the last couple of people that came off the board.
Sure.
At the end of round 4, the last 3 picks were Marlon Mack, Zach Ertz, and Kenny Golladay. And so Ertz, let's talk about Ertz because he's definitely fallen the most out of the big 3 tight ends. As a matter of fact, I've seen Ertz last until the 6th round in some drafts. What's your take on Ertz, and is Goddard going to take enough away from Ertz to where he may not even end up in the top 3 this year?
Yeah, Zach Ertz was second in the league last year in receptions. He had one more catch than DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins had 115. Ertz had 116. Now, Nick Foles was a big part of that because he did like to check down to Zach Ertz a lot. Dallas Goedert was still a rookie. So maybe instead of Goddard eating into Ertz's snap count, maybe they're just both on this field at the same time. AJ Green just came off the board. I still like Ertz as a top 3 tight end. I would go back and forth between actually Hunter Henry and Ertz, but to me, it's Kelsey, Kittle, and then swapping Hunter Henry and Zach Ertz. I'm on the clock, Jim. Patrick Mahomes is still there.
I think you got to pull a trigger. I think that stack with him and Williams is a nice stack. I agree. It goes against, but in round 5, how can you go wrong?
I really, you know what? I really like to get a good flex option here. And we were talking about the 49ers. Tevin Coleman's my man. I think people are really sleeping on him this year. I'm going to grab him. I'm going to take Tevin Coleman at 5, the pick, 4th pick in the 5th round. I think he's up for a monster year. Jerick McKinnon's probably going to start the year on injured reserve. He's out for at least 8 games. I know Matt Breida is there as well, but whoever the running back is in this Kyle Shanahan or his dad Mike Shanahan's offense, they produce big-time fantasy stats. I got him as my flex. If Zeke doesn't play, I can use him as one of my running backs and then worry about that later. I'll try to grab Zeke's handcuff a little bit later in the draft as well. But to me, I like having that. I like having options at running back. I can always find a wide receiver. I can always find a quarterback a little bit later. The value for Patrick Mahomes, certainly there in the 5th round. We'll continue to monitor what he goes or what round he goes in. But to me, Tevin Coleman was a great pick there.
I like Tevin Coleman, but he's never been able to take full advantage of the situation like last year when he was going to be the number 1. And, he had a decent season for PPR leagues. He put up decent points, but it wasn't the year everybody expected out of him. I agree with you. The guy who gets most of the work in this offense is going to be huge in PPR. No doubt about it. Kyle Shanahan just loves to get those running backs involved.
I'm a big system guy, and I think the one-cut style for the 49ers offense fits Tevin Coleman's running ability perfectly. He's a one-cut back, and he is gone. He will ghost all the defenders in the open field. He's going to really excel in Shanahan's offense, which we saw him do when him and Devontae Freeman were both top 12 backs the year the Falcons went to the Super Bowl, the last time Kyle Shanahan was calling plays down there in Atlanta. So I'm really big on Tevin Coleman this year. Maybe some people think he's a reach in the 5th round. I do not. He will finish the year as a top 20 back. Mark it. August 19th, Bill Enright bold prediction, Tevin Coleman finishes in the top 20.
I don't think it's all that bold, but okay.
Then why is he there in the 5th round?
Well, okay, that's a fair point. I'll give you that. He's definitely not being drafted where but the range of outcomes for him is pretty wide. I agree with you. He should get most of the work, but for me, I love the value of Matt Breida, where you can get him, which is usually 4 or 5 rounds later. He's having a great camp. I actually did a piece for Sports Illustrated about him. Don't sleep on Matt Breida just because he's having a great camp. They're using him all over the place, and he's going to be highly involved because even though if Coleman is still the number 1, Breida is still going to get plenty of work. He did well for them last year, even playing through all those injuries. I expect the big things out of him this year as well. And I love getting him, 4 to 5 rounds later. I think the value is huge there. We do have another question coming in from the chat room, so let's jump over to that.
Patrick Mahomes off the board, pick 5.7.
Oh, right behind you. There you go. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're not going to go wrong with Coleman. If he can stay healthy for the year and do that, I mean, you've got a nice running back 3 there, so not a big problem.
All right.
Justin Eller wants to know if we're buying into the Chris Godwin breakout hype. Is the beginning of the 4th round too early in PPR?
I'll take him in the 3rd round. He's my 13th wide receiver right now on the FFChamps customizable cheat sheet, the C3. It was top 5 in accuracy last year. I was the number 1 expert out of like 155 fantasy analysts in the wide receiver category specifically. So wide receivers are kind of my thing. I love Chris Godwin this year. I think him and Mike Evans can both be in the top 15. Love that Bruce Arians offense. Absolutely grabbing Chris Godwin at the beginning of the 4th. I'll drop him in the middle of the 3rd.
I'll tell you what, I hate Chris Godwin.
What?
Because I hate Chris Godwin because 2, 3, 4 months ago when I was drafting, and I'll tell you, I am an addict when it comes to drafting. I am. I did my first draft for 2019 the day after the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So, that's just the kind of nut I am.
Yep.
So, 2, 3, 4 months ago, I was getting Chris Godwin in the 8th, 9th, 10th round and loving it. Like just loving it. Now, I mean, come on, the end of the third, beginning of the fourth. Oh, that's killing me, guys. I mean, look, I love Bruce Arians, and I'm right with you. I think Chris Godwin is in line for a great season in this offense.
Okay, good.
Look what he did with Larry Fitzgerald out of the slot in Arizona with Carson Palmer. He's going to do the same thing here. Chris Godwin is going to have a monster year, but I really liked it better when I was getting him in the 7th and 8th round than where he's going now.
Of course. And that's, Jim, you know what? That's one of the benefits of drafting earlier in the year. We talked a little bit earlier about Andrew Luck, Melvin Gordon, Zeke, and that's kind of the problems of drafting early. And you start to develop more news and more information as the year goes on, as you get closer to the start of the season. But one of the benefits of drafting early is you do get value like a Chris Godwin in the 8th, 9th round. And all of a sudden we're heading towards 2 weeks out before the start of the season. And now you're seeing him going in the middle of the 3rd, end of the 4th.
No, and that's right. And that's one of the biggest things about drafting early, because everybody asks that. Why are you drafting so early?
Right.
There's going to be so many injuries, and you don't know all the stuff that's going to happen. But see, that's the thing. If you do extra homework, if you're putting in extra work, then you will have that edge with the early drafts because you will know what's going on. Sure, there's going to be injuries and things that happen that's out of your control, but that's to anybody at any time. I don't care if you're drafting the last week before the season starts. A week into the season, the guy you drafted in the first round could be lost for the year. You just don't know. So that kind of thing can happen at any point. Sure, the window is larger for the injury to happen if you draft early. But if you're a knowledgeable drafter, you can use that draft early to really get an edge off the guys that aren't really prepared. They may be drafting, but maybe they don't have all the little nuances. One of the things that I love is I'm a Twitter guy. I've been using Twitter guy since it came out. I love doing it. I'm all over it. And I follow over 450 beat writers on Twitter. Perfect. And I love just going through all their tweets and following their links and just trying to follow as much of it as I can and garner as much information as I can. And, if you're drafting early, those are the kinds of things that can absolutely give you the edge.
I'm with you. And there's benefits and there's drawbacks to both sides of the story here. I'm on deck. Baker Mayfield went before Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, Cam Newton. He was the second quarterback taken in this year's draft or in this online championship.
That guy also has Beckham, so he went for that stack.
Nice little stack there. Evan Ingram just went. I'm going to end up taking, I don't want to jinx it, but I think I'm going to end up taking Hunter Henry here. I think he's going to be a monster this season. I really like what he can do. He's on pace for the same kind of speed and agility and athleticism. Grades out just as well as George Kittle does. I like grabbing one of these tight ends because after Ingram, after Hunter Henry, I think there's a really big drop-off here. I'm not crazy about the wide receivers that are available. Will Fuller, Larry Fitz, Marvin Jones. I might grab Larry Fitz a little bit later. Tariq Cohen just came off the board. So
I love Larry Fitz. Look, if this Arizona offense is going to be even, 60% of what they expect it to be, then Larry Fitz is going to be a huge part of that.
All right. So then do I draft Fitz or do I draft Hunter Henry?
You can probably get Fitz next round.
I think so too.
People aren't buying into Fitz like I am. So you can probably get him next round. I love Hunter Henry in that offense. There's no doubt about it. Rivers loves him. If he stays healthy, the man is a red zone threat all the time. Yes. And Rivers has a real connection with him. I have no problem with Hunter Henry.
I'm with you. And that's who
I actually have him over Evan Ingram.
So do I. Hunter Henry right now, 4th on my board. I too have him over Evan Ingram, although I think Ingram's going to be a big PPR guy this year as well. But again, that tier is now evaporated. So Kelsey, Kittle, Ertz, Hunter Henry, and Ingram already off the board. And then it kind of takes a little bit of a cliff jump for me at the tight end position.
Well, I do like O.J. Howard. I know Arians isn't really a guy that's been known to use a tight end in the past, but he's never really had one as talented as O.J. Howard.
I like I like Howard, but again, I just said I think Evans and Chris Godwin are both going to be in the top 13. I don't know how that plays into how much Howard is utilized. So,
see, every time somebody says that to me,
what do
all
you
I
think?
say to them is look at the Rams. You got 3 wide receivers that, were all going in top 12, top 15 last year
Sure.
before the injury. It can happen. And this Tampa Bay offense is going to throw the ball a ton. No matter what you like there, the running backs there aren't very good. I want Ronald Jones to take that next step forward, but he hasn't done it yet.
Nope.
So, it's going to be a committee there. Neither one of them so far has shown much of anything for me. So the fact of the matter is that defense hasn't gotten any better. Bruce Arians loves to throw down the field. Jameis Winston loves to throw down the field. And I think this team is going to, if not have the most passing attempts in the league, they're probably going to be in the top 5. So I think there's easily enough to carry 3 good receivers, including O.J. Howard in that offense.
I know it's crazy, but I might pass on wide receiver again next round. I have to start 2 of them, Jim. I have right now just a recap of my team: Zeke, Tevin Coleman, Damian Williams, Julian Edelman, Alshon Jeffrey, Hunter Henry. I like a couple of running backs that are still on the board, Duke Johnson being one of them. I like Sterling Shepard. I like Larry Fitz. I don't know. Deshaun Watson's still there in the 7th round.
Yeah, I love Deshaun Watson. I have him as my number 2 quarterback.
Yeah, so do I. Kenyon Drake just went. I absolutely hate that pick. I think it was a wasted pick, to be honest with you.
I agree. Everybody's talking up Ballage, and look, I'm not a big Ballage believer. He didn't show me anything last year that really made him stand out. But the beat writers are saying he's having a good camp. He's playing well. I just think they're both going to eat into each other, where neither one of them is going to be a great fantasy option. So I don't want anything to do with them. I think this team is going to be bad. They're probably going to run very few plays again. And I'm trying to stay away from those guys. Scott wants to know if you can share the cheat sheet from the draft room again.
Sure. Share screen. And we'll go with this one. There it is.
Okay.
Cheat sheet looks awesome. It shows you who's already been taken, who's on my team, who's still available. I mean, even I personally am doing simultaneous with the FFChamps draft tracker and the cheat sheet from Full-Time Fantasy. So I have 2 sources here going. Full-Time Fantasy's rankings were in the top 10 in accuracy once again. All the guys, we do great stuff. So I'm using both cheat sheets here, going back and forth and kind of picking where I like to see. My wide receivers, if someone looks at my team, they're like, oh, his wide receivers stink. But I don't know. I always feel like I can get good value later, especially for my wide receiver 3. I'm on deck. I might end up taking Larry Fitzgerald here, especially I think he'll have a good start to the season, and then worry about some other players a little bit later on in the draft that I can get into. That'll be in my wide receiver sleeper article that you can check out at FFChamps.com. Promo code 2019 for $40 off the premium package. Shameless plug. It's all good. But I'm on deck here. Josh Gordon just went.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about that in the 7th round, second pick in the 7th round, Josh Gordon. Everybody, he got reinstated and then went right on the NFI list, and people started freaking out. Oh, he's hurt. He's hurt. He's not hurt, people. They put him there so they can figure out who they're going to move down or move out and find a room for him. Basically at the motel, they need a room for him. So they need to make some moves to make that happen. Once they've seen him on the field a little bit, he'll be right there. He's fine. Don't worry about it. What's your thoughts on Josh Gordon in the 7th round? Are you buying or are you selling on Josh Gordon?
In the 7th round, I would have liked, if I didn't have Julian Edelman, I would have been hoping that Josh Gordon fell to me right here in the 7th round. Instead, I took Larry Fitzgerald. I would buy Josh Gordon in the 7th round. 6th round is probably pushing it. I think 7th round is right in the wheelhouse. It's the 2nd pick in the 7th round. Mid 7th is good for me as long as he plays 12 games. He screwed you last year in the fantasy football playoffs when he had to step aside for personal reasons, which everyone roots for Josh Gordon to get his head straight, and that's fine. But you need a player that's going to be on the field. The Patriots need a player that's going to be on the field, and they did fine without him for their Super Bowl run, but Gronk retired now. They really don't have a wide receiver 2. N'Keal Harry's not having a really good training camp despite being drafted in the first round this year. So I like Josh Gordon with his current ADP. I'm not going to reach for him, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, 6th round would be pushing it, but it would really depend on the draft flow. Because I do like his upside. Look, we know the man's a beast on the field. It's just off the field, he likes a little bit of the leaf. Unfortunately, I'm with him on that as well. It's so much better doing that than all of these other drugs they take for the pain.
Right.
You know, it's ridiculous that it's even an issue anymore. Hopefully soon they get that rectified. I'm pretty sure that's going to be in the next agreement with them and the players union. Has to be at this point. Too many states have it legal for it not to be. So I definitely think that's going to happen as well. So, you know, good for him. I'm glad they reinstated him. Obviously, he must be doing all the right things because they reinstated him fairly quickly. So I saw after Gordon went at pick 2 with round 7, and Shepard went at pick 3, and then you did take Fitzgerald. I love that pick. I don't care what anybody says. I love that pick. I'd take him every day. I don't think the man's even close to being done. Right after that was O.J. Howard, and then D.D. Westbrook in the 7th round. I
don't get that.
Yeah.
No. Davidson Crowder, Corey Davis, Deshaun Jackson, Marvin Jones, Dante Moncrief, all I have ranked ahead. Even in on the Scout Fantasy or the play full-time fantasies cheat sheet here. D.D. Westbrook number 37, Larry Fitz number 41. There's a couple guys down here that I have ahead of D.D. Westbrook.
Yeah, there's definitely a few I have in there and I don't know. I like D.D. Westbrook. I think he's a good receiver, but you know, there's been so much different talk coming out of that camp. You know, one day it's Chris Conley, next day it's Westbrook. I just don't know which one I believe at this point. I do like Nick Foles more than most. I think he could be a good quarterback, but their weapons outside of that are going to be tough. I've never been a Chris Conley guy. I know he's fast. I know he can get down the field, but he had the chance last year to make use of it in Kansas City and couldn't get it done. All of a sudden in Jacksonville, he's going to be all of a sudden this great new wide receiver that everybody wants. I don't buy into it.
I don't get it either. Marquez Valdez-Scantling just went 7-9. What do you think of the number 2 position for the number 2 wide receiver on the Packers? Are you an Allison guy or MVS?
I'll tell you the truth. I like both of them.
Okay.
For 2 different reasons. When they go with 2 wide receivers, it's going to be MVS on the outside. When they go to 3 wide receivers, then we're going to see Allison in the slot. And I love, Rodgers loves throwing to his slot receiver. He has a huge percentage of throws that usually goes to his slot receiver. And Allison was killing it before his injury last year. He was having a great year. And then MVS came on and had a couple of good games and then promptly got into Rodgers' doghouse like everybody else on the planet seems to do. And all of a sudden fell off the face of the planet. Now we have had Rodgers all preseason talking MVS up. So I like both of them. And one thing we have seen is in a lot of these drafts, as soon as one of them goes off the board, within a few picks, the other one usually comes right behind him because everybody wants a piece of that offense, hoping it's going to hit. So I don't really have a problem with either, but I do have Scantling just slightly ahead.
Another bad pick, I think, here is it's 7-10, Darius Geis. I mean, he's not even cleared to play yet. And I'm not crazy that Trent Williams is holding out. I think
Trent Williams has said he ain't playing for them no more.
I think Adrian Peterson's still going to be a factor in that offense.
I agree.
The Redskins are a disaster, just like the Jets or the Browns in past years. I can't get behind Redskins players this year. I think they're going to be one of the worst offenses in the entire league. I won't draft. I will not draft a player from the Redskins this year. I won't do it.
I'm pretty much staying away, except for Peterson, because he can get him later, and I'll take a shot on him. He surprised the heck out of me. I didn't believe him that he was going to do anything with Washington last year. After the year before, when him averaging 2.3 yards per carry the year before, he goes to Washington with just a team I just didn't think much of anyway, and the offensive line beat to hell, all hurting at one point or another. And by that time, fourth string quarterback, all the wide receivers are junk. And yet the man goes out and puts up 1,000 yards in that offense. I'm like, are you kidding me? I will never doubt him again. If he's still playing when he's 90, I'm going to freaking draft him.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
So let's see. Let's look at a couple more of these picks after Geis. And I'm with you. I'm definitely a little hesitant on Geis. He's just been having so many issues with that, trying to come back from that injury. But right behind him is Lamar Miller.
You want me to share my screen here so the people at home can see the draft board as well?
They should. I put the link up several times in there, but sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Wait, no, don't do that. We're not supposed to show the people drafting names. So don't do that. Okay. I will put the link back in the chat room so other people can, or put it up as a banner.
Okay.
So you can follow it there. I just put it up on the main screen. Because some of those guys don't like their names out there, so people know who they like to draft. So they like anonymity.
Okay.
Man, I can't even say that today. So we got another question in here from My Ball. And My Ball just happened to get very lucky today. Bill and I were doing a test of this software earlier, and all of a sudden My Ball jumped into the chat room and was like, "Oh, okay." And because he did, he was the only one there. We gave him a free membership over at FFChamps for jumping in today.
Good.
So My Ball, good for you. You got lucky, but he's got a question. He wants to know, in a trade, should he give up Josh Gordon for Sam Darnold in a 6-point TD PPR league? He already has Russell Wilson, and it's a dynasty. Would you give up Josh Gordon for Sam Darnold?
To get Sam Darnold?
Yeah, that I guess that's what he's reading. Well, the trade is Josh Gordon for Sam Darnold. Which side do you like?
Not. I like whoever's having Josh Gordon, especially if they already have Russell Wilson. I just don't see the need to add another quarterback to your team. If you're in a 12-team league, only one quarterback starts. I'm fine. He just signed the richest contract in NFL history. Russell Wilson's not going anywhere. I would roll the dice if you're in win now mode. Josh Gordon can help you win now. Sam Darnold can't, because you're not starting Darnold over Russell Wilson.
Yeah, well, that's not. I agree with that. I wouldn't mind this. Look, I do. Again, I'm saying it again. I do like Sam Darnold. I think he's going to be a good quarterback in this league for quite a few years. And with the history of Gordon, I think I would give up Gordon to get Darnold as a backup to Wilson. Look, you're right. You're not going to start him over him on. You're going to only start him when his bye week happens, and that's fine. But Wilson is getting older. I like to have a backup quarterback, even in one quarterback leagues. I just do. Maybe it's just me, but I tend to like having a backup. So we'll see what happens. I would do it. Bill wouldn't. Again, we get to disagree. I like when that happens. So let's go back to this draft real quick. And then, so after Geis went Lamar Miller, what's your take on Lamar Miller? I mean, it is the 7th round. I mean, if you're going to draft him, I mean, 7th round, 8th round, I guess would be about the spot to do it. What's your take on Miller? You like Miller this year, or are you staying away?
I like him where he was, because if you look at the the running backs who were available, it's his teammate Duke Johnson, Rashad Penny, Kalen Ballage, Royce Freeman, Jordan Howard. So I like Miller there. He's really the last of the starting running backs that kind of went off the board. Maybe you can throw LaShawn McCoy, I guess, into that conversation, but I like the Howard pick there. And then someone we just talked about earlier, Geronimo Allison
I do the same thing with his name all the time. Geronimo just seems to mess me up.
Yeah, Geronimo.
So and then right after him is a guy I do like, but I've been getting him later than this, and that's Latavius Murray in New Orleans. I've been getting him at the end of the 8th, beginning in 9th in some drafts. So for him to come off at the end of the 7th, you think that's too early, or is that a good pick?
He was someone that I had in my queue already that I was going to grab if he was still there. I like the Latavius Murray pick. He doesn't have to do Mark Ingram numbers to still put up worthy flex capable kind of options for your PPR or standard format. I think he does get somewhere between 8 to 9 touchdowns this year because he is a force near the goal line. I do like his running style in that Saints system. He's fast in the open field. He occasionally goes down on the first tackle despite his size. despite his frame. But I like the pick in the 8th round.
Yeah, I like Murray too, and especially in that offense. We know that New Orleans wants to run more, and everybody just thought when they got rid of Ingram that Kamara was all of a sudden going to get another 100 touches, and it's just not the case. They don't need to. He's so efficient with what he does get and what he brings to the table. They don't need him to do all that much work, nor do they want him to. They want to keep him fresh for that playoff run. So Murray's absolutely going to be getting a lot of work here. Miller, he's an okay guy, but there's nothing about his game that stands out to me. And now that they got Duke Johnson, I love Duke Johnson. I think he fits this offense better than Miller. I think that if he can get on the field, because of course he's dealing with a hamstring injury, which is kind of pissing me off. But if he can get on the field, I think he makes a great connection with Watson and what they can do together. I love Duke Johnson. I've actually taken Duke Johnson ahead of Lamar Miller in a couple of drafts so far.
From your lips to God's ears, because I am on deck right now and I have Duke Johnson queued up. He is an absolutely great value here in the PPR format. If Zeke does not start the first couple of weeks, Moncrief just went, so I am going to grab Duke Johnson. If Zeke doesn't start the first couple of weeks, I have no problem using Tevin Coleman, Duke Johnson, Damian Williams as my 3 running backs or my 2 running backs in my flex. I'm with you. I think Duke Johnson will be heavily involved in this Houston Texans offense.
Yeah, I love this kid. And, it was only 2 years ago where he was a top 12 running back in this league. So it's not like he's never done it before. He's an outstanding, receiving running back, but he can also run. So, at least he's not one of those guys when he steps on the field, defense knows it's automatically a pass because he can run. And coaches love to have that kind of versatility. So I agree. Let's keep going here. No more questions in the chat room. Hey guys, if you got questions in the chat room, go for it. Let us know. We'll definitely, that's what we're here for. We want to answer your questions as we're going over this. So you took Duke Johnson, and then Jamison Crowder comes off the board next. Now, Team 3 has him as a number 5 wide receiver. Man, I can't hate that. I'm not a huge Crowder guy, but in PPR, in this offense, he could be as a wide receiver 5, should be a no-brainer, don't you think?
If Duke Johnson wasn't there, Crowder was the next person that I had queued up. And I like him. Listen, I've talked a lot of trash about the Jets so far on this show, which I do a lot. Am I on the clock? No. Which I do a lot. But if there's one player other than Le'Veon Bell, it's Jamison Crowder, because we know what Adam Gase does with those slot receivers.
Right.
And that fits right in Crowder's wheelhouse. Robbie Anderson went 2 rounds before Crowder. I think that's a big, big mistake, especially in the PPR format.
I like Robbie Andrews so much more in a best ball format.
You don't have to worry
he's going to have big games. You just never know when. So, yeah, I'm with you on Crowder. He's going to be more steady. He's going to be that guy he's going to get you points every week no matter what. So I like that. We got another question here from Greg Castillo. Greg, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. Does he want Sony Michel or James White in PPR?
James White. It's not even a debate.
Okay, well, good. We got something else to argue about. Yes, I love
perfect. It. I'll get right for this one.
First of all, the whole thing that Sony Michel can't catch is ridiculous.
That's fine.
Man caught plenty in college. He can catch. He's got no problem with that. I like James White, no doubt. But he had a career year last year because of all the other injuries going on. Gronk being hurt all the time. And his numbers were crazy across the board. But I know how great a receiving running back he is. I get that. My big thing with him this year is he going to get over 400 rushing yards and 5 rushing TDs again. I don't think he will.
See, the thing about James White, and in full disclosure, I hosted a radio show for the New England Patriots for 8 years, and I'm very familiar with that team, that roster, and kind of some inner workings with the franchise, and they are worried about Sony Michel's knee. That's why they drafted Damian Harris this year. Sony Michel will have knee problems throughout his entire career. He will never play. I don't want to say never. It will be rare when he plays. It will be rare when he plays a full 16-game season. He gets hit way too much, and he runs really, really hard. Not when I say he runs hard, he's physical. I mean, if you watch him run, his takes really strong, hard-hitting steps. Every time his foot hits the ground, it's a hard impact on the surface, and that's going right up to his knees. He's going to have knee problems for a very, very long time. He already has undergone 2 knee scopes last year. He already had one this year. It's going to be a problem for him. And James White in a PPR format, I don't think there's anyone better as your PPR running back that you can get in the 4th round than James White.
I don't know. I have my doubts. I just don't think he's going to get the same amount of numbers he got last year. And I think he's being overdrafted at that 4th round ranking. We'll have to see. He was never that before. Even in his other years when he had good receiving numbers, he was never that high before. I just don't know if he comes back to that number again, especially now that they're putting other weapons on the field. You know, they brought in N'Keal Harry, and, you know, now they got Gordon back. And, of course, Edelman's still there. And, you know, I don't know what the heck they're going to do at tight end. They're just going to keep throwing guys out there until somebody catches a ball, I think. But just with everything else there, and then Damian Harris being involved as well, you still got Rex Burkhead there. Man, I'm just having a hard time buying into White as that early a drafter, and I just haven't been able to do it yet. I haven't been able to pull that trigger on that. And you're on the clock again, so give us a little thought, what you're thinking of here.
So I only have 3 wide receivers, and you start wide receivers in this draft, in this format. So would it benefit? What? Am I on the clock? Yeah. Would it benefit me of taking one now? Yes, it absolutely would. But I'm a little afraid. I'm a little afraid of the quarterback run going, and me missing out. And I don't know if I should grab a quarterback that I really like this year in Cam Newton. Matt Ryan's still available. The quarterback's so deep.
There's still quite a few left.
There's so many left. I like Golden Tate in the PPR format. I already have Alshon Jeffrey from the Eagles. I like Deshaun Jackson. I'm not going to grab Anthony Miller. I'm not a big fan of Corey Davis. I'm going to pass on wide receiver again, and I'm going to go after another running back, someone that I think has a lot of potential this year. We talked about the Seahawks earlier. If something happens with Chris Carson's knee, I think Rashad Penny can be a really, really big factor. I'm going to go ahead and take my 5th running back. I'm going to go ahead and grab Rashad Penny.
I like Penny too, but he's still being outplayed by Carson. So
I know.
It'd be interesting. I know at this point at this point you're betting on something happening to Carson, or, you know, he's going to get enough to be a little bit usable. But if Carson goes down, then of course he steps right into that main role, and you're looking good at that point. So I get it. And again, we know he's got the talent. He just wasn't ready last year for whatever reason. Just didn't show enough. I don't hate your team. It's coming together. There's still plenty of quarterbacks to go, and unless they all take quarterbacks the rest of this round and all next round, you should be good. Should be quite a few guys there. Look, one of the guys asked earlier, but I missed it. I didn't see who did. You know, they wanted to know who are some good late round quarterbacks, and there's quite a few of them this year.
There's a ton.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Phillip Rivers, Dak Prescott, Ben Roethlisberger,
Kirk Cousins, Trubisky, even Brady, Josh Allen. There's a ton of them you can get late, and all have good upside. All have a chance to finish in the top, 12, to me anyway. Dak Prescott, once he got Cooper, he was the number 4 quarterback for the rest of the season once he got Cooper on the field. So that definitely did something for him. Of course, a lot of his, predicated on the fact that we expect Zeke to be back and ready. So we'll have to see how that goes. Let's see. We got another. Okay, here we go. Oh, there's Justin Eller with another question. If he starts his draft with Connor, Michael Thomas, and Carson and Godwin, so 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, would you guys take James White or Alshon Jeffrey in round 5? Hunter Henry seems appealing in the 6th. We were both said, yeah, we love Hunter Henry in the 6th. It's not a problem. We know that Bill is going to say James White over Alshon Jeffrey, aren't we?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Yeah. We all just said Alshon is going to be our bounce back player of the year, so I'm going to have to go with Alshon.
Okay.
I have to go with Alshon there, but it's a good one. It's a good problem to have with those guys, I think. So good job so far. I like the way you started. A good solid start there. Definitely come together. Let's see, where are we at now? Let's see who's gone off since your pick of Rashad Penny. Balaj went off to Team 5 in the 9th round. After him, Matt Breida. Again, I'm all in on Matt Breida. And then Vance McDonald. So let's talk about Vance McDonald.
Sure.
Because a lot of people are just thinking now that Jesse James is out of the picture that Vance McDonald is just going to vault up into the top rungs of tight endom. Are you one of them?
So to me, I'm not going to go out and search for a guy like Vance McDonald. If he comes along and Jared Cook's available or Eric Ebron's there or Trey Burton's there, even someone like a Mark Andrews from the Baltimore Ravens, I'm not going to go out and like target Vance McDonald. If he ends up falling to me out of that tier, I'm fine with it. But if I had my choice between that group, I'd probably go in a different direction.
I'm kind of with you. I think he does a lot of what he did last year. I think the guy that's going to see that Jesse James role, which is just enough to eat into Vance McDonald's, is Xavier Grimble. They like this kid, and he's shown a little bit in camp. So they definitely, and he's a good receiver. Not a great receiver, but he's good in receiver, just enough to take a bite out of McDonald's. Bite out of McDonald's. I love that. I didn't even mean that. Out of his production.
Whoever just transferred Vance McDonald needs to change his team name.
Yeah, there you go. Take out of McDonald's. So I don't have him that early. There's a couple of guys that I like more that are still on the board in this before McDonald. I think he's going to be good. I just don't think he's going to be great. I don't think he's going to take that next step that people seem to be envisioning for him. So we'll see how it goes.
I just had I mentioned that I like a lot of wide receivers late. I just had my first, gosh darn it, moment of the draft. James Washington, first overall pick in the 10th round. I really, really like James Washington a lot this year. I think he ends up.
You are so wrong. You are so wrong. So
Yeah.
wrong. There's people in the Philadelphia, in the Pittsburgh organization that think that Deontay Johnson is above James Washington in the depth charts already.
It's not going to happen.
Look, the guy shows up great in preseason. I get it. He does great against the 2s and the 3s. But when you get him on the real field in a real game, it just doesn't all show. For whatever reason, I like Dante Moncrief. I just think he's the best out of what they have available now. I think Deontay Johnson is the guy I want going forward. And in a dynasty, I would absolutely take him over both of these guys. But in a redraft, I like Moncrief. I think in this offense with Roethlisberger throwing him the ball and Juju on the other side, I think he has a chance to put up decent numbers, and it's going to be much better than James Washington. Sorry, guys. I'm not buying James Washington.
Another guy that I just wanted that I thought I could get late was Golden Tate. I will eat those 4 games happily, knowing that he's on my team in week 5. He's a PPR monster, year in, year out. Love his yards after the catch ability. He would have gone perfectly with my team, and I'm pretty pissed off that he just got taken.
Yeah, I hear you. Look, with this, I like Tate too. Absolutely. I don't think he's done. A lot of people have been saying, oh, look, he didn't do nothing with Philadelphia. It had nothing to do with him. Philadelphia didn't use him. I don't even know why they got him when they had Aguilar playing very well at the time. It didn't make any sense to me. And then they bring him over and didn't use him. It was almost like the Carlos Hyde trade to Jacksonville. Why did you bother?
Right.
I think he's absolutely in this offense as the number 2 when he comes back. I think he could put up some decent games. My problem with the Giant offense this year is at what point do they make the transition from Eli to David, to Danny Jones?
Right.
And that bothers me because I don't know how good that transition is going to go, but I know it's got to come at some point this year. And that's kind of steering me away from some of these receivers just because, look, I didn't like Daniel Jones when they drafted him. I didn't think much of him before the draft. To pick him into 6th, I thought was nuts. But he has looked good in preseason. He throws a nice, sharp ball. He throws a better ball than Eli does at this point.
Yes, he does.
It's all the other little things. What's he going to do when he has people all draped around his feet and, those kind of things? Is he going to make those stupid mistakes like he did in this week's game where he had the 2 fumbles. He recovered from that and threw a nice touchdown pass. Actually, he threw a couple of really beautiful passes. I'll give him that. But there's going to be some change when that happens, and that scares me a little bit with these guys. So I'm a little off. I have them in some leagues, just not as high as others. And, of course, I'm a Giants fan, so maybe that's a little bias coming into every time I seem to pick a Giant player on my fantasy team, they screw me over. So
that happens. I get it. It's tough to detach that emotion with your favorite team. I'm sure you see the Giant helmet in the back of my office here. I too am a Giants fan. Maybe that's partly why I always rip on the Jets, because the in-town rivalry thing going on. I'm shocked at the quarterbacks that are still available here in the 10th round. It makes me say I can keep waiting, although one is staring me in the face right now, that I might pass up on wide receiver again, only because I'm not crazy about these guys that can make minimal impact on my weekly starting lineup when I think there's a quarterback available that can make a really big impact. There's actually 2 of them. One is Matt Ryan and the other one's Cam Newton. Matt Ryan plays 13 games this year in a dome. 8 games in Atlanta. Obviously, they're in a dome. And then he plays, I'm terrible at math, what would that be, 5? 5 games on the road that are inside. He's a beast when it comes in playing indoors. So Matt Ryan or Cam Newton.
You're not worried with Matt Ryan that it seems like every odd year he has a down year? If you look at the last 5 years, every odd year he has a bad year, and then every even year he has a good year.
Well, did he have a good year last year?
He did, but it was an even year. It was 2018. This year it's 2019, and those are the years he has the bad years. Is the odd number years?
Come on, Jim. What kind of analysis is that? That's cockamamie analysis.
I'll just throw it out there. But it's true. If you look at the numbers, they hold up. It definitely has happened the last few times. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year. I actually like Matt Ryan a lot this year.
I'm taking Killer Cam here in the 10th round.
Okay, but I want to talk about Cam. So you're not worried at all about Cam's shoulder or the fact that they're trying to teach him a new way to throw the ball at his age?
Not worried.
You don't think that in the heat of action, when people are chasing his butt down, that he goes back to throw, he's just not going to go to the same motion he's been using all his freaking life and put that torque on his shoulder again?
Nope. I don't care.
You don't care?
Nope.
You're not worried about that at all?
I'm not worried about Cam.
They say if he keeps throwing it like that, he's definitely going to be done soon.
That's
he has to learn to throw differently. I just don't know if he's going to be able to do it in the middle of the game.
That's fine with me as long as it doesn't happen in 2019. Cam Newton's long-term health is not my problem. 2019 version of Cam Newton, now that he's on all my fantasy teams, will be a major concern of mine. But his long-term health, the guy's a millionaire. He maybe retires by the time he's 30. I think that would all benefit. I think that would all be a dream scenario for all of us out here. Retire at the age of 30 with millions of dollars in the bank, and you're probably one of the most popular athletes on the planet. We'd all sign up for that. Maybe he's not going to be able to play catch with his kids growing up, but he'll be fine. He'll be able to show him his highlight tapes and teach him how to.
Where's the ball? Okay, so we got a couple of questions in the chat room. Let's jump in there. Dan Bevavino. Ooh, that's a tough one. After Lev Bell last year, how can you pick Zeke or Gordon right now? Well, we talked about Zeke earlier, but he probably wasn't here, so let's go over it again.
No, that's fine. Let's keep in mind that the Le'Veon Bell situation happened once. Every other running back or player that decided to hold out, Emmitt Smith held out for 2 games, okay? These players don't hold out for seasons. Le'Veon Bell is the exception. It happened one time that a player sat out the entire season. Zeke's not sitting out the entire season. Melvin Gordon's not sitting out the entire season. All right? Le'Veon Bell is the exception to the rule. He's not the new rule.
And I'm with you on there, especially with Zeke, because he is under contract. Plus, they're going to get a deal done. They need him on that offense. This is a team that has every chance to be a Super Bowl contender with him on the field. Without him on the field, I don't care how good Tony Pollard is. Look, he's no Zeke. So without Zeke on the field, your Super Bowl intentions are gone. So they're going to get this done. Maybe it's 1 week into the season where they lose against the Giants, they bring him back. But even that, I don't believe. I think they have him in and ready for week 1. Gordon, to me, is a different story. this is a team. The Chargers don't play ball. They gave him what they thought was a good deal. He turned it down. That's all they're going to offer. They're not going to turn around and say, okay, you know what? We need you in camp. We're going to give you more to make you happy. They're not going to do that. And I just think he's dug his heels in so far that we could see him sit out for a while. Maybe even till week 10. I don't think it's going to be the week 10, but I have just enough doubt to where I haven't been taking him even in the third round because I think there is concern here. But the Zeke and Gordon things are two totally different things. One, Gordon is fighting for his life to be a starter at this point because he's going to have a hard time getting paid that next big contract with all the knee issues he's had and with all the wear and tear he's had. People just don't want to pay running backs those kind of numbers anymore. One of the things that I think we're going to start seeing a lot going forward is that teams are going to bring in the rookies. They're going to play them for 4 or 5 years as much as they can. And then they're going to say, okay, we're not going to pay the next big contract. We're just going to bring another one in and do the same thing. And I think we're going to get to a point where these running backs, unless they're absolutely elite with no injury history or anything like that, are not going to get that next big contract. They're going to have to fight for it. I think that's going to become the norm more than the exception. So I have definitely a lot more concern with Gordon than I do with Zeke. But good question, Dan. Thank you for that. We do have another question coming up. Let's see. Okay, here's one. This one's from J.S. Spina. Oh, Spina, yeah. He wants to know, is Eric Ebron going to be the main tight end, or should I be worried about Jack Doyle?
That sounds like there's someone that drafted Eric Ebron already. I think Ebron got a lot of flack in the league because he was a first-round pick. The Lions didn't really use him a whole lot. He had a lot of problem with drops. But tight end is one of the hardest positions to learn in the NFL. It's one of the most challenging from college to the NFL. So I think the Lions cut bait way too short. And I think the Eric Ebron we saw last year was that talent that everyone made him, graded him as a first-round pick in the NFL draft. So I'm not worried about Jack Doyle. If Andrew Luck's healthy, I'd be more concerned about Luck's health than I would about Jack Doyle eating into Eric Ebron's workload.
Okay, well, I'm still worried about Luck's health in all facets. Ebron is still going to be a major red zone threat, so he's going to have plenty of opportunities to score touchdowns. But when it comes to, a PPR stint, each and every week type of player, I'm still going with Jack Doyle. If you look at the numbers last year when they were both healthy and playing, Jack Doyle was double the number of snaps, double the number of routes run, double the number of receptions. It was touchdowns that were really feeding Ebron early. And then, of course, Doyle went out and Ebron just went off. Him and Luck just had this great thing. So I think both of these guys are good values this year. But I love Doyle where you can get him, which is so much later. He's one of those guys, one of those tight ends I really like getting late as a tight end too that has tight end one upside.
That makes sense. I'm with you. I think he's, especially in a PPR format, Jack Doyle. I mean, we've seen it from him, right? He's finished in the top 10. So as long as he stays healthy as well as Andrew Luck, then I think he'd be on to something here.
Let's see. Let's go back to this draft real quick and see who. So you did. Matt Ryan. Oh, Matt Ryan went one pick before you in the 11th.
No, one pick after me.
One pick before you. He was the third pick. You were the fourth.
Yeah, but I already had Cam Newton.
All right, you did have Newton. I missed that. Okay. Okay, so Matt Ryan went off. Then you took Devin Funchess. Talk to us about your choice of Devin Funchess here.
I forced it. I needed a wide receiver. There's a couple more guys that I would have rather had. I was actually looking to pick Tony Pollard. I didn't realize he got drafted already. He got drafted in the 9th round. And I think it's a little early to reach for someone else's handcuff.
Yeah, I don't know. 9th round is a little rough for me. I'm with you on that one.
But, anyway, so I was looking for Tony Pollard. He was already gone. I was shocked because I missed it. And then Devin Funchess was my next wide receiver on my cheat sheet, so that's what I went with. So
I don't blame you. I mean, look at the guys that went after Funchess. You got John Brown in Buffalo,
Yep.
Definitely a better best ball pick than a season-long, every week have to start type of pick. McCole Hardman's going to be the same way. He's
Yep.
going to have some big games, but you're just never going to know why
Yep.
or when. Deebo Samuel is another rookie coming into a San Francisco wide receiver core that right now is completely up in the air. I like Funch as the number 2 there in Indianapolis as well. And he's your, number 4 wide receiver. Not terrible. Again, it really is going to come down to a lot with Luck being healthy. Hopefully he stays healthy. Taylor Douglas in the chat wants to know if this is or if you're drafting against other fantasy analysts or just random people. I wouldn't call these guys random people. These are some of the biggest winners in the high stake industry. These are big names, guys that have all had their pictures taken with the big checks.
Multiple commas.
Yeah, really.
Multiple zero. I'm sorry, not $1 million is multiple commas. 100. Multiple zeros in the checks that they've taken home.
Yeah, right. So these are some of the biggest winners in high stakes leagues, drafting in this league, including, I think, the guy that's considered the number 1 in the world right now is in this draft. So,
who's that? What?
I'm not naming names again. I don't think we're supposed to name names, so I'm not going to do that.
I want to see what team he has.
I was going to name the team name to you too, but I don't think I should even do that.
Okay.
If Scott's still in the chat room, he can let me know if we can tell that name out, or even the team name. But
Tom Brady just got picked. Now
that's early considered to most of them.
I'm fine with him getting picked eventually, but there's still 5 guys or 6 guys I like before him. I get it. He's the GOAT. He wins a lot of Super Bowls, but his fantasy stats have been really on the decline, especially with the Patriots focusing on the run game more. I'm just surprised to see him go that early. I mean, Russell Wilson went to pick after Brady, and whoever had that pick is probably like, oh, no, I hope a quarterback lasts. I hope a quarterback lasts.
Yeah,
and then Russell Wilson falls in his lap when he sees Tom Brady going ahead of him. He's probably jumping for joy.
I agree. Look, Brady is what he is. I mean, the man wins the big game, no doubt. I mean, he's a great quarterback, and like you said, probably the greatest of all time. Although I'm a big Joe Montana guy myself, but you can't take anything away from Brady. The one thing I really love about Brady is he beats everybody except us. We're the only ones that seem to take him down in the big game. Sorry, Tommy boy, but
Listen,
don't play the Giants.
We're going 20 rounds here in this draft, right?
Yes, you are.
Why? What am I missing? Something? Why is Chase Edmonds coming off the board in the 12th round?
Because that team also has David Johnson, and I guess they're trying to cover their butt. I agree with you. He's been going so much later, so I can't really. That's too early for me to take him. But at some point, there's some young guys that are still on the board that I would definitely take over Chase Edmonds, just because I expect David Johnson to be there all year. But hey, you never know. The one thing I have learned is that the one thing we can't do in fantasy football is never say never. You can't say never anything.
I want to interrupt you here for a second because I'm going to make another, I think, a value pick. We've been talking about him all show. If he's healthy, this might be the best pick of the draft. You want to take a guess?
Oh, man. If he's healthy, he might be the – no, I have no clue right now.
12th round. If healthy, this guy's ranked in the top 3 for his position.
12th round, top 3 for his position. I'm drawing a blank.
Andrew Luck.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah.
I mean, in the 12th round, why not take and then I have him and Cam, and I could choose the best one each week.
The only problem I have with that is because if Luck is healthy and on the field week 1, every week you're going to be saying, damn, which one do I start this week? Every week it's going to be Cam or Luck.
Good
Luck.
Jim.
Except that 60% of the time you're going to pick the wrong one and beat yourself up over it. You're going to be like, oh, man, I knew I should have taken Luck this week.
Nope. Having 2 good options is always a good problem to have.
It is a good problem to have most of the time, but sometimes it can definitely beat you up. There's no doubt about it. Let's see. Man, this is crazy. We got a lot of people in the chat room. Thank you all for joining us. Of course, this is the FFChamps live draft show with Bill Enright and Jim Day. I'm your host. Follow me at Fantasy Taz on Twitter. You can follow Bill at Bill Enright. He likes to make it easy for you. Um, just use his name, go for it. Of course, you can follow us at FFChamps as well on Twitter. We definitely post a lot there. We now, of course, have the full-time fantasy network, 17 podcasts with all kinds of great pods every single day coming out. Make sure to check that out. You can go to Full-Time Fantasy and check it out on their page. You can come to FF Champs, check it out on our page. A lot of great information coming out from all these guys on the pod network, and they're doing a great job. So thanks to all of them for really coming together and getting pretty strong as a team. So looking forward to what we can do going forward. So let's see. Let's talk a little bit more about some of the other options that you can play at. I had this page up before. Now I can't find it. Man, my bad. Sorry, guys.
Another wasted pick here. Marquise Lee in the 12th round. It shouldn't be happening.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. That's just ridiculous.
Naheem Hines in the 12th round. That's a really good pick. I like that.
I like Naheem Hines. And let's talk about Naheem Hines. He's a forgotten man. This kid is a rookie. He had a great season as a rookie, and he's just falling off everybody's list. I'm like, what the heck's going on here?
Did you see the Colts put Deontay Foreman on IR?
On IR, yeah. He's toast now. He's done. And then they went out and got Charkandrick West from the Kansas City to bring in. So obviously they're having doubts, what's going to happen behind Mack and Hines, because those two, to me, are cemented in place.
I agree.
It's really going to happen. Whatever happens is behind them. And I love Hines. And the fact that you can get him so late, to me, has been huge in PPR drafts. People are sleeping on him left and right. I would gladly take him in the 8th round. And I've been getting him in the 13th in some drafts. To me, that's just ridiculous value.
I think that was a really good pick right there by whoever just took him. I can't.
Whoever. I'm absolutely with you. And then in Team 1 comes in at the end of round 12 and grabs Jameis Winston. We talked a little bit about Tampa Bay and the wide receivers and tight ends earlier for them. But what's your thoughts on Winston? Are you buying into Winston this year?
I mean, I think I kind of have to be if I said Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are both going to finish in the top 15, right?
It kind of comes together. It's got to be from somewhere.
Right. So, yeah, Winston as let's see. Let me pull up this cheat sheet here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He was what? The 12th quarterback taken? I mean,
is it that much? Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
That rounds out the QB1s right there for me.
Yeah.
So, Winston, and that's why you have to understand that you have to wait on your quarterback, because there's 15 quarterbacks that you can consider a quarterback 1 in fantasy football. And a guy like Winston, new offense that a lot of people are getting excited about, has 2 capable wide receivers, has two very talented tight ends in OJ Howard and Cameron Brate. So I like Winston as a quarterback 1. Absolutely.
I'm all in too. Look, and this is what I keep trying to tell people with this offense last year. Between him and Fitzpatrick, they were together combined were a top 5 quarterback all season long. If you put their numbers together for all the different mix and matches, they were a top 5 quarterback because they throw so much. And now you add Bruce Arians. I think this offense is even going to be better, going to put up more points, going to throw more. So, I'm with you there. I love Winston where you can get him. And I want to talk about this because Team 2 had Kyler Murray in round 9 and then came back in round 13 and got Lamar Jackson. Now, look, Lamar Jackson, obviously excellent running quarterback last year, put up big numbers for that, and that's great in fantasy. I am a little concerned that he could do it full term. But to me, this year, I thought it was a great year. If you want to go get one of these young quarterbacks that have this kind of upside running the ball, like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, if you want to take a chance on these young guys, this is a great year to do it because you can draft them a little earlier than most people would and still come back and get a very good, strong quarterback too, like a Rivers or, a Cousins or Trubisky to back them up in case they don't quite meet what you need. This is the perfect year to do that. I can't really remember a season where it was this easy to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting, some of the passers that are coming into this league. And, we've seen it with Randall Cunningham and Mike Vick and someone like a Steve Young or Donovan McNabb. But now it's almost like either you're a big 6'5" or over, stand in the pocket passer, or you're someone that scrambles. There's no in between anymore. So I'm very interested to see the direction of the NFL over the next couple of years, because if you look at the faces of the NFL, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, maybe Kyler Murray takes over. All of them kind of have that rushing capability at the quarterback spot, which is a lot different than what we've seen in the last decade. Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, that have kind of just stayed in the pocket. So there might be a big cultural shift in the NFL with a lot of these rushing quarterbacks, in addition to what they bring to the fantasy football table as well.
Or it could be just another cycle of them coming in, changing it for a couple of years, all getting beaten up because they get hit left and right all the time, like Watson does, and get beat up, like Vic always did, and those guys always did. They take a lot of hits, and then we see the shift back at some point. But right now, you're right. Everybody wants that new, high intensity offense that's going to be fast and moving around the field at all time, using all these RBOs and bubble screens and all of these type of things to change that offense. And I get it; it's a smart move. You want to keep defenses on their toes at all times, and the more you can do that, the better off you're going to be, the more productive you're going to be. And you can't really do that sitting behind the center all the time. It just very rarely does it really work a ton anymore. We're seeing less and less of that every year. And I'm with you on that. Some of these guys are going to put up really nice fantasy years this year. Heck, even Trubisky, very quickly, you don't really think of how much he runs and what he gets on the ground. Right. Same thing with Dak Prescott. Every year he's been in the league, he's had 6 rushing touchdowns. People forget all that stuff. That's very important, people. They may not be known as rushing quarterbacks, but look at their numbers. Some of these guys get sneaky rushing stats and can throw the ball as well. So they're going to put up decent numbers. Keep that in mind. Let's keep going back to this draft here. And, so you, okay. Oh, no, Bill, you didn't. Tell me you didn't. Oh, Bill, you did. Oh, okay. 13th round. Trey Burton was the first pick off. Lamar Jackson was second. Devontae Parker was third. Oh, but we're not here to talk about Devontae Parker. We're here to talk about your pick. Tell us about your pick.
64 catches, 624 yards, and 3 touchdowns this year. I will take Cole Beasley in the 13th round of a PPR league as my wide receiver 5 on my team.
Not buying.
Oh, I don't know, Jim. Listen.
I'm not buying. I'd much rather have Mohamed Sanu, who went after you. Humphreys. I'm just not a big Cole Beasley fan. And now he's with a new offense, and he's got a quarterback that has a problem throwing that short to intermediate route with any kind of consistency. I'm just not buying.
Okay, that's fine. I think he'll get 5 to 7 catches every week, and that's what you're looking for from your wide receiver.
5 to 7. What are you smoking over there? Get some more coffee in this man. Somebody get some coffee delivered. He needs something to pick him up. I'm so bad at math. I literally have to bring out my calculator. 5 times 16 is 80 catches. I think I haven't blocked in for 64 catches. That's his floor, in my opinion. They don't listen. Zay Jones, some of these other guys, John Brown, they don't have consistent. I'm not going to argue that. Although Zay Jones actually was pretty good with Allen last year. But he's moving back to the outside. He did most of his damage in the slot. And look, Cole Beasley brings what he brings, but man, it's just no excitement there for me at all.
I don't think the Dallas Cowboys use him correctly. I think he is a capable.
So you think Buffalo will?
I do. Yeah, I think they're gonna run the ball a lot and do a lot of short passes. And then once they establish that play action,
who's gonna be the quarterback?
What do you mean? They have a. You've been talking about Josh Allen the whole show.
Yeah, because he can run well. He can't throw the short to intermediate routes.
Listen, they're going to bring in a play. They're going to run the ball a lot. They're going to bring in a lot of play action. They're going to use Josh Allen's big arm to throw deep. And then once the the cornerbacks have to either play closer to the line of scrimmage or worry about the deep ball, that's where Cole Beasley is going to make his money this year.
You're on deck. We'll have to see what your next pick is after that Cole Beasley debacle. We got another. Actually, I want to go back to you because you're on deck. What's your thinking here? So now, real quick, you have 2, 4, 5 running backs. You have 2, 4, 5 wide receivers. You have Hunter Henry. You have 2 quarterbacks already. What are you thinking about with this next pick?
This pick is going to be 1 or 2 people, and I want to take another running back, but I kind of know I need some more wide receivers. And there's a tight end that he's still available too that I'm kind of surprised about that is missing the first 4 games of the year. So Malcolm Brown just went. That was not who I was going to take, although I do like that pick. Kenny Stills is still there. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a good year down in Miami. I like Quincy Enunwa a lot as well. Marquise Goodwin is there for the 49ers. I think he's one of the only players on that 49er team that actually has a role already. Andy Isabella, I really like him a lot as a rookie wide receiver, but I already have Larry Fitz on my team. And then Jalen Richard from the Raiders. If you're not a big fan of Josh Jacobs, I think Richard can do a lot of damage in the PPR format as well. Oh, this one's going to be tough, Jim. I'll be honest with you.
Tick tock. Bill is on the clock. So, yeah, look, this is the time. You got to take those chances. Go after those guys that give you big upside to me anyway. When I get into these rounds, I don't like to take safe players. I want players that are either going to explode or not, and if not, then they become waiver wire fodder. But I like guys that give me big upside. And guys like Beasley and stuff just don't really feel – I like Enunwa more than I like Beasley this year. I will say that.
I just took Enunwa, by the way.
Oh, there you go. So that to me, that's a decent wide receiver 6. I would have liked him wide receiver 5, but you still got him, and that's a good thing.
See, Jim, in the PPR format, I'm not looking for – I'm looking for more consistency than upside because Beasley is my wide receiver 4. Okay, or at the time, my wide receiver 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. My wide receiver 5. He's a bye week guy. You know,
I get that, and I'm not saying it's a bad. I just don't see the upside with him, and that's to me that's it.
I'm not looking for him for upside. I'm looking for him as my bye week replacement that I can keep on my roster and know that if I'm in a bind one week where 2 of my guys have the same bye week, which will happen, I'm sure, or if I need a flex play. Then all of a sudden I can plug in a guy that I think can get 6 for 60 on a consistent basis.
Well, we'll see. Look, if we all agreed on the same players, this game would be boring as hell.
You're absolutely
no doubt about. And Scott has to throw in here. Go with your gut, Bill. There's a week of waivers preseason, so you don't have to take a kicker or a defense here.
Oh, nice.
Because you have waivers before the season starts.
That's good to know. And
you do know that you can play your guy, any guys that play in that Thursday night game, you can change them in and out of your lineup up until that Sunday.
Oh, okay, good to know. Chris Herndon just got drafted. That's who I was talking about that has that 4-game suspension that I think can really have a good year at tight end.
I like Herndon a lot, too. I hated seeing him get that 4-game suspension. But that's his tight end number 1 team, too. So he must have another plan in place for the first 4 weeks. We'll have to see how that goes. We have another question in here from, let's see, Taylor Douglas wants to know, what's your thoughts on LaShawn McCoy picking the 11th? You think that's a good pick in the 11th? Would you take him in the 11th or not?
Yeah, that's a fine pick for the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season. I do think Devin Singletary ends up taking over. We'll see if TJ Yeldon makes the team. They brought in Frank Gore to, average 4.6 or whatever he averages throughout his whole career. McCoy just doesn't have that same kind of flash and sizzle that he once did. But in the 11th round, yeah, that's a pretty good pick.
Yeah, why not? Look, let's face it. Even if he just becomes the PPR back in that offense, he's worth it at that point.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. As we saw, Devin Singletary came off before he did in this draft, and I'm with you. I like Singletary too. He's shown that he's better than what his combine showed him to be. He's a better football player than he is an exercise guy or whatever. And I'd much rather have a better football player than a guy that shines on the combine and does nothing on the field.
And those are the players that I love to pick in dynasty drafts because they're a good football player. Maybe the combine numbers just didn't, maybe catch a lot of people's eye or didn't pop out like a DK Metcalf did, who already is undergoing surgery and he's going to be an injury problem throughout his career in the NFL. But I'd rather take a guy that is proven on the college ranks than just some guy that had really good combine numbers and he's working out in shorts and a t-shirt and not playing football. That's why I like Alvin.
Every time I saw that picture of DK Metcalf, the only thing I could think of was David Boston. A guy who was a physical freak, had that body like whatever, got on the field and did nothing. And I wasn't buying into DK Metcalf at all until all of a sudden Russell Wilson started coming out and saying how smart he is, how hard he's working, how much he's already learned the offense, and he's better than just a deep threat and all this stuff. And I love Russell Wilson. I think he's one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league. So if he starts talking about this guy, I have to start thinking about it. And I was just getting into the point where, I was starting to buy into him a little and drafting him a few times. And of course, now he's going to have the knee surgery, although they're saying it's going to be minor and there's still a chance he could be back for week 1. But like you said, this isn't a first time thing for him. I have to see how it actually works out over the long haul. But I don't know what to believe at this point, but when you got Russell Wilson crowing for you like that, I think it's great. Some of the other picks that came off the board right before you, Andy Isabella went, you took Jalen Richard. What?
What the hell's going on out here?
I don't know. What are you talking about?
A kicker just went 15th round. We still have 5 more rounds. Greg Zuerlein's off the board.
Well, you know what? I have a theory about that. I'd much rather take a kicker early than a defense. Because I could settle with but here's why. I could settle for any defense. Pretty much anything. You could, stream a defense. But with kickers, you just never know who's going to be starting freaking week 1 for almost anybody. Because these guys are changing damn jerseys left and right every freaking week. And I hate that. I hate leagues with defenses and kickers. I'd much rather play IDP. I hate dealing with kickers. If it was a team kicker, then I'd like it more, but kickers change jerseys just too damn often for me to want any part of it. So I could see somebody going for a good solid kicker early better than going for a good defense early. I can never buy into an early defense.
It always seems like the number one defense from last year ends up going first this year, and they're never actually the first defense when it's all said and done.
Actually, if you go back the last 5 years, none of the teams in the top 5 the previous years have made it there the next years.
There you go.
Most team defensive scoring is predicated on touchdowns. Nothing else really comes into play. Points against is so low, it doesn't matter because you get let's say 7 points for keeping a team to 0. How often does that freaking happen? Most teams are scoring at least 10, 14 points, and then you get nothing out of defensive scoring. You got to rely on those touchdowns, and that's such a freak stat. You never know where they're going to come from and which team is going to get them in any given year. So these guys that always go, and you see it all the time, these guys drafting the defense in round 7, round 8, you got to get that hot defense like Chicago's been this year.
Yeah.
And to me, that I love those guys. I want to shake their hand and thank them for not taking a player I want. It's as simple as that. Thank you for donating your money to my cause. I appreciate it muchly. And that's what I say. To me, it's ridiculous. Defense and kickers should be the last couple picks. But with kicker, I'm starting to push up a little bit just because I never know when they're going to be freaking on the team they're on. They just keep changing all over. And you can never draft a Chicago kicker because they go through 8 in the year.
The Chicago, who was the kicker last year that cost me all that money when I bet against the Eagles?
Oh, the double doink guy. I can't even think of his name. That's how bad it is. But he's got his own name. He's the double doink guy. So we'll see how that works out. So let's get back to this draft. So you took Jalen Richard in the 15th. Mike Davis comes off in right after you, and I like Mike Davis. I think he has a shot, especially, look, I like Montgomery. I've been taking Montgomery over Josh Jacobs for a while now, and I like Montgomery a lot. But let's face it, I mean, any player is one play away from being off the field, and Mike Davis would easily step into that role. It's not going to be Cohen. Cohen has his role. He does what he does, and he's going to be a big play guy and a receiver back. That's what he does. But if Montgomery goes down, then it's going to be Davis is the guy that's going to step into that position. And why not take the chance there? I like that. After him went Greg Olsen. What's your thoughts on Olsen? I've been really afraid to touch Olsen with those damn foot injuries the last couple of years, and him already talking about wanting to be in the booth already. Yeah. What's your thoughts on him? Are you buying anything of him this year, or are you staying away?
I've played against Greg Olsen from the time I was like in first grade all the way through he graduated high school. He was just always athletically dominant and gifted and a specimen at every level. So I've seen him just really develop into one of the NFL's great tight ends over the years. I do think he still has a little bit left in the tank, although I know what is it, Ian Thomas that?
Yeah, Ian Thomas, yes.
That kind of looked good last year when
he did look good. He looked very
good. So I wouldn't draft Olsen as my one. He's more of a tight end 2 to me.
Wow, that guy actually for that team, he's a tight end 3.
Oh, okay.
He's already got Evan Ingram and Delaney Walker, and now he's got Olsen. Wow. 3 guys he's got to worry about staying healthy.
Right.
Okay, let's see how it works. Right after Olsen was Drew Brees. People not buying into Brees because they're running so much and whatever. Jack Doyle went right after him. Again, I like Doyle. I think he's a great compliment to Cook, who that team took earlier in the 8th round. And then Dontrell Hilliard for Cleveland, who's now supposed to step into that Duke Johnson role now that Duke Johnson's gone, or at least until Hunt comes back in week 10. What's your thoughts on Hilliard? Are you buying him at all? Do you think he's going to have any fantasy value?
I'm sorry, who was the question?
Dontrell Hilliard, the guy who's supposed to be the passing down back now for Cleveland.
For the Browns. I mean, I'm a big Nick Chubb guy, and I think he's going to have I think even with Kareem Hunt coming back in week 10, because I know he's an 8-game suspension and then bye in week 9. So even with Kareem Hunt back in week 10, Nick Chubb's going to finish this year as like a top 7 running back. He might even get into that top 5. I think the Browns are going to be really good. I think they'll be able to run the football really well because Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, I think it's Nick Chubb's backfield. So just because they got rid of Duke Johnson and he was their pass catching back.
Yeah, but they didn't use him last year anyway.
What's that?
They didn't use him last year anyway, Duke Johnson.
Right. So I'm not really sure that Hilliard will really have that much of a role. I think Nick Chubb is one of the few workhorses right now in the NFL.
And I'm with you up until week 10. And when Hunt comes back, I'm not saying he's going to take the job from Chubb. I'm not saying that at all. Chubb is their guy. But if he's been going strong and, doing 20, 25 touches a game, they're going to bring that number down quite a bit in week 10. They want to get Hunt on the field to showcase him because ultimately I have to feel that the goal when they acquired him was to get him on the field a little bit this year and then trade him at the end of the year and try and get some draft picks back for him. I think that has to be the goal because they love Chubb. They have, so much that they want to do with Chubb that I don't think they want Hunt in that same backfield because ultimately that would just create issues.
Right.
So I think they're going to want to trade him, which means I think they have to get him on the field, some to showcase him, and also to keep Chubb healthy for the playoff run that they think they're going to be in. That bothers me.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. I agree with those sentiments.
Yeah, so I'm just a little – I love Chubb, and I think he's a great running back, and they're saying they're going to get him the ball, a lot more in the passing game now, which I believe he's got good hands. Again, it's another situation where he's not catching the ball. Everybody said, he doesn't catch the ball because he doesn't have good hands. It's a ridiculous thing. They used to say that about Zeke. You know what happened? They finally started throwing him the freaking ball. Yeah, so all of a sudden, whoa, look, he can catch. No. I can't say that on here. But, yeah, definitely not. It's like, what are you people thinking? These guys, just because they've never done it before doesn't mean they can't do it.
Right.
So if you get Chubb, all I'm going to say is try and come back and get Hunt. But you should probably, if you have Chubb, you're going to want to get Hunt a little earlier than where he's normally going, which is in the 11th or 12th round. So maybe by the 10th round, if you have Chubb, I would recommend getting Hunt for at least for the fantasy playoffs. Have both of them is just good logic to me anyway. I think that's definitely something you can do and make work. And if Hunt comes back and they don't use him, then so what? It doesn't really cost you anything for a 10th round pick. You got to take that shot to back up your guy. We got another question here in the chat room from Lance Davis. Goon Squad up. Oh, you're on the clock. So we get to talk about that. I'm going to talk about Lance's question while you're making your pick, and then we'll talk about your pick. Lance wants to know, which running back with knee issues do you feel more comfortable taking early on in drafts, Gurley or Dalvin Cook? And I'm going to put this out there, Lance. Definitely Gurley for me. I like Dalvin Cook, but Gurley's done it before. He's supposedly fully healthy now. I know he's got the arthritis, but there's different levels of arthritis. They know it's there. They're going to pay more attention to it this year. Sure, they're going to take his touches down, but here's a great stat for you. He had 5 games last year with under 20 touches. All 5 of them came in his last 8 games played. Over those last 8 games, he was still the number 2 running back in PPR leagues, and he was still averaging 26.2 fantasy points a game over those last 8 games. Like I said, 5 of them were under 20 touches. There's no reason he can't put up numbers comparable to what Kamara does with the same number of touches, especially in that offense. He still get all the goal line work. He still catches a ton of passes. So even if he averages under 20 touches a game, I have no problem with Gurley. I love Dalvin Cook when he runs, but after the last 2 years, I am a little bit more hesitant with him this year than I would be with Gurley. And I've been all in on Gurley all offseason. I talk about him on every show. I've been drafting him in so many leagues in the early second round. I think that's just a steal, and I'll take that all the time. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Gurley is still a top 5 running back at the end of the year.
See, the great thing about going after a guy like Todd Gurley is I think his handcuffs Malcolm Brown. And Malcolm Brown is essentially free.
Yep.
In your fantasy drafts. I mean, everyone is on Darrell Henderson. I think he's going to have a role as their kind of change of pace back. But if Gurley goes down, Henderson's not going to be the guy to take over that workload. I think it's going to be Malcolm Brown. And when you're drafting a guy like Gurley, you get his handcuff. Brown's essentially free. Dalvin Cook, sure, the same thing. Maybe you draft Alexander Madison, but Rams have a much better offense. I think Gurley's one of the best backs in the league for a long time. The guy's been an MVP candidate 2 years in a row. His knee has arthritis in it. All right. Is he going to miss 10 games this year because of an arthritic knee? No. I think he's on the field. You're happy with 13 games. If you get anything more, you're very satisfied. And then again, you draft the handcuff to protect yourself.
And I agree. I'm with you on Malcolm Brown as well. All the beat writers are saying it's clear in camp that Malcolm Brown is the number 2. It's not Darrell Henderson. I think Darrell Henderson has a good career in this league, and he'll get there eventually, but he hasn't been doing it yet. His first 2 preseason games, he's averaged just over 3 yards a carry. So it's not like he's making any kind of inroads there, and it's against second and third string defenses. So that's a little scary on its own. So I'm with you there. If I grab Gurley, I usually come back and get Malcolm Brown later. I'll let other people overpay for Henderson. For a while there, he was going. I saw him start going in the 5th and 6th round in some drafts. The hype was getting so ridiculous. Huge. I was like, "Are you people can have him?" Absolutely. I had a guest on one of my shows. This guy named Smitty. I've known him for years. We've done podcasts many times over the years. And, he makes his living out of being that hot take guy, coming up with those guys. And he names 100 of them and, hope a couple of them stick. And those are the guys, oh, yeah, I called this guy and hit it, and,
right.
And that's great. There's many people that do that kind of stuff, but they never talk about the guys. Oh, I called this guy. Oh, yeah, well, he sunk. Yeah, well, that's okay. I called him anyway. They never say that. Uh-oh, Bill's making a face. What happened, Bill? You got to give us an update here.
3 guys that I had in my queue all just got picked. Marquise Goodwin from the 49ers, Trey Quinn from the Washington Redskins, 2 wide receivers that I thought I'd be able to get in this round. And then I was going to pick up the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they just got picked as well.
Oh, got you. We're getting into round 18 here. We're getting towards the end. And Lance is saying in the chat room, the shiny new toy syndrome. That's exactly right. It's always the shiny new toy everybody wants.
Yep, that's true.
And that's one of the biggest things I try to tell people is, keep in mind the shiny new toy, but the guy that's been there doing it forever, there's a reason he's been there doing it forever. Yep. And that has to account for something. So you guys take all the shiny new toys. I'm going to take the guys that have been doing it. And I do find that I end up drafting teams that have some older players on it, and I get razzed about it. And I'm like, I don't care. I win with this. So you do what you do. I do what I do, and let's go for it. Guys like Fitzgerald, Delaney Walker, all guys I like this year, and they're older. I'm okay with that. I can deal with that. Oh, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside just went off the board in the 18th round. I love that pick. Look, I like Aguilar. Aguilar's played well for them, but for some reason they've been trying to replace Aguilar for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And Whiteside has that kind of upside. They love him in the red zone. He's a big receiver, strong receiver. He's got good speed, and he's having a good camp. He's playing well. So, at this point in the draft, in the middle of the 18th round, I would absolutely take a shot on him. I like him a lot. And he went, 3 picks after Aguilar went. That just shows you how much people aren't buying into Aguilar anymore. So he's definitely fallen down draft boards far.
Yeah.
So I get that.
He's someone that was brought in from the previous, regime. Yeah. I think it was Chip Kelly that brought him in, right?
Yeah, it was Chip Kelly that brought him in.
Yeah, so I who knows if maybe Doug Peterson doesn't like the way they brought in Deshaun Jackson this year. We both like Alshon Jeffrey. They have 2 really good tight ends. So Aguilar is kind of just like the forgotten man at this point.
And he is, as we just saw, going in the 18th round.
Yeah.
So I get it. Let's see. So, you're on the clock. And, so tell us who you picked in the 18th round.
So Damian Williams is my running back too, and I'm really a big fan of Andy Reid's running backs. I think anyone could succeed in that style of offense. I think they're going to be one of the best offenses in the league. That's not a hot take. They're just really, really fast, and Patrick Mahomes is what I say is the truth. So if Damian Williams was to go down, Carlos Hyde really does not impress me at all. Darwin Thompson has looked good in the preseason, but he's a rookie. Andy Reid specifically mentioned Darrell Williams as a guy that people should take note of, that got some work with that first team when Damian Williams was out of training camp with that hamstring injury. So for me to get what I think could be a handcuff for one of the running back studs on my team in the 18th round, I don't think you can go wrong there. Again, just like we said about Todd Gurley before with Malcolm Brown, some of these handcuffs are free. Now, right. Zeke Elliott's handcuff, Tony Pollard, went in the 9th round. I wasn't going to get a handcuff in the 9th round because I ended up thinking that Zeke plays, and I think Pollard ends up being a waiver wire cut at the end of September anyway, and I'll probably just add him on my team later in the year. But for me to go for after a handcuff in the 9th round is a little bit too early. I like running backs where I can get their handcuffs late, and to me, Darrell Williams and Damian Williams are the perfect combination of that. Damian Williams was my 2nd round pick. Darrell Williams was my 18th round pick.
Yeah, and it sucks because they're both D. Williams, and you just never know which one people are talking about because they say, how do you like D. Williams this year?
Yeah.
There's 130 Williams in the freaking league. Who are you talking about?
Yeah.
I hate those kind of questions. You get them all the time. Who do you like, Johnson or Smith?
Yeah.
Hello.
Well, yeah, and another thing is like Devontae Adams, Devontae Freeman.
They're all spelled differently.
Yeah, and they're all spelled differently. You don't know who's, exactly.
One's got a D, one's got an E, one's got an A, one's got an O. What the hell? Yep. I agree. It's like every time I got to spell one of their names, I got to look it up every single freaking time because it's like, which one is it? I hate that. We got another question from Lance.
Okay.
Stand up, Goon Squad. We'd love to have you out here with us. Which late round Jags wide receiver are you more willing to take a late round flyer on? Chris Conley or DJ Baby Chark?
No, nobody. Neither of them. Why? No. Why are we focused on Jacksonville Jaguars wide receivers? Is he from Jacksonville? Does he want to? I mean,
I don't know. He might be. Look, let's say if that was the choice, let's just say if that was the choice, I would absolutely.
Why is that the
choice?
choice?
Wait. I'm just. That's the question, so I'm going to answer the question. If what is the? If I'm going to take a shot on either one of them, it's going to be Chark. He's the one lately that's actually getting talked about.
Fine.
They're saying he's doing well now. He's having a better camp. Conley was the guy they were talking about early on as being that guy. He was building up a rapport with Foles. I don't believe in Conley. I would never pick Conley. I would never draft Conley. I don't care if the man goes out there and scores 18 touchdowns this year. He'll still never be on my freaking team. He was on the best offense in the world at a time when they needed him last year in Kansas City and couldn't do a damn thing. So, yeah, it's absolutely not going to be him. If anything, I'm going to take a chance on Chark in the second year, taking a little step forward. But Bill is right ultimately is why do you want any piece of that offense outside of Fournette if you're going to take the shot on him? He's the guy to have. Really not anybody else on that offense I'm really concerned about at this point. And here come all the defenses charging off the board. And you took the Houston Texans. Why you take the Houston Texans there, Bill?
Something about that AFC South where you're playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars, whose quarterback situation with Nick Foles, their offense is not that great. You're playing against the Tennessee Titans once a year where Marcus Mariota, Ryan Tannehill, not that great. Maybe Andrew Luck doesn't play to start the season. I like teams where their division is kind of not as much offensive explosion. And the Houston Texans have a lot of teams in that division that are like that.
That's actually a great point. No doubt about it, especially if Luck doesn't play. Why not? Oh, and there goes one of my favorite sleepers just came off the board in the 19th round, and that's Quadre Olison. I'm not a big Ito Smith guy. I don't believe in Ito Smith at all. He hasn't shown me anything that makes me think that he could be a guy that could take it to the next level in fantasy. Whereas Olison, I'm not going to be surprised at all if he's the guy getting the goal line work this year. Big bruising back, but he's got good agility, can get around as well. Do you have any thoughts on Olison, or am I like the only one? Because nobody I know ever talks about him.
Yeah, I think the reason why is because they have a lot of backup to the backups, right? It's Devontae Freeman, and then everyone kind of is just penciling in Ito Smith, but that might not necessarily be the case. Olison's a guy that they brought in, and who's the other one? Justice Hill?
No, he's on Baltimore.
Oh, he's on Baltimore. Who am I thinking of?
I don't know.
Ryan Hill?
Damn, I'm drawing a blank too. Who you, man? Usually I know which one you're talking about, but no, I'm not. Hold on, give me a second. Brian Hill. Yeah, Brian
Hill. Right. So Brian Hill. Yeah, I just feel like they have a lot of options there, and maybe that's why, I don't know, Kenyon Barner's there too, I think. I don't know. I just can't get excited about anyone else other than Devontae Freeman in that backfield.
Yeah, but like I said, in the 19th round, I'll take a shot on Olison just because I think he could get some goal line work as well. And if Freeman does go down, I think he ends up taking that role, not Ito. And as a 19th pick, like you said, he comes for nothing. What the heck? If it doesn't work out, if he's not getting any play, he just goes on the waiver wire. And you take up somebody who's actually doing something. So I don't have a problem with that. We're getting down here to the end of the draft. We're in the 20th round. Folks, this is, of course, the online championship presented from Full Time Fantasy at playffwc.com. They have a ton of different types of games. And I'm going to share my screen now and just show you some of the things that they have as well. Give me a second here. Share screen. Which one do I want? I want application window. I want this one. Share. And this is some of the different leagues that you can find on this. Is you got the free mock draft world championship,
which is
cost
awesome.
You nothing. You can win $2,500.
Yeah.
So what the heck? And it takes a couple of minutes to do a mock draft. You can do hundreds of these. We don't care.
Free to
the
play.
More the merrier. Yeah. You can play as many of these as you want. I do these all the time. They're great. They're quick. The the other choices besides your choices are coming from the experts at Full-Time Fantasy, their rankings. So these are top rankings. You're getting good picks there. It's not all junk in between your pick. Really good mock drafts. They have the $35 starter leagues, best ball and full season. What the heck? You want to take a small leap into the high stakes world? This is a great place to start. $35 leagues. Of course, the one Bill is doing now, which is the $299 online championship, which you can actually do live in Vegas too. If you go to Vegas for the for the start of the season, they do these online championship drafts live as well, and you can win up to $50,000 as a grand prize in this. Each league winners have over $2,400 in cash and prizes. And then, of course, the big one, the Fantasy Football World Championship. Of course, now it's called the Sports Illustrated Fantasy Football World Championship for $17.95. But you can get one of those big checks for $150,000 for playing in this league. And even if you just win your league, you have $12,000 in league prizes in these leagues. So definitely some great things to try out coming. They have Super Flex. They have Dynasty. And you want to play Dynasty, they have the only place on the face of the planet where you can actually purchase existing Dynasty teams because you think they're good. They have a Dynasty marketplace at Play FFWC where you can go in and people have put up teams that they've built that are really strong, that have good chances of contending, and you could purchase those teams from them at whatever price they set. You could do the same thing if you want to sell your Dynasty team. You can go in there and do that. Nobody else even offers something like that. So it's a lot of great things. And of course, here is I'm going to try and see if I can get this to change. No, I can't. Okay, screw it. We'll go back to this. But so there's definitely a lot of different things you could do there, and a lot of different types of games. So sure, come over to playffwc.com and check it out. There's all kinds of great things going on. Let's see. You know what? Scott said every time we say Damian Williams, he's drinking. So I'm going to say it a couple more times. Damian Williams, Damian Williams, Damian Williams. That's just for you, Scott. Just had to do that. I couldn't help myself.
I wish I had a shot of espresso right now.
Well, there you go. There's only 3 picks left. And you just picked your kicker, Badgley from the Chargers. And not for nothing, but I heard he was just cut.
No.
See, it made you think, though. It made you think. That's why I hate kickers, because you just never know. No, he wasn't cut, but damn. I loved your reaction. That was classic.
That would have been fun.
So, folks, we want to thank you for hanging out with us. We hope to be doing plenty more of these.
Let's go over my starting lineup for week 1 before we cut off.
Okay, go for it. I'm in no rush. Knock yourself out.
So I think I kind of said this throughout the show. I'm in the PPR format. I'm fine with getting who I think are going to be heavily targeted reception monsters, PPR monsters, if you will. So I don't ignore the position, but I get guys that I think are capable of falling somewhere between 6 to 8 catches for a minimum of 80 yards. And if they score a touchdown, that's a bonus to me. So in the Fantasy Football World Championship formats, you have 2 flexes. I love using 4 running backs if possible in those flex spots. So I started my draft off with Zeke and Damian Williams. So just kind of from a starting lineup, and if you're familiar with it, obviously you are if you would be watching the show. Quarterback week 1, Cam Newton. Then I got Zeke, Damian Williams in my 2 running back spots. Julian Edelman, Larry Fitz, and Alshon are my 3 wide receivers. I got Hunter Henry in my tight end spot. And then I think I have 2 of the best flex options in the entire league with Duke Johnson and Tevin Coleman. And then I got Bagley and the Texans defense.
Yeah, strong starting lineup. As long as you don't have to put Cole Beasley in there, you'll be good.
Even if the 3rd guy off my board. Listen, I grabbed Cole Beasley when I did, but I followed him up with 3 more wide receivers that I all think are going to be capable this year. Devin Funchess, Quincy Enunwa, and Ted Ginn. They can all pop in and out of my flex spots when they need to. But for the most part, I don't plan on taking out Edelman, Fitz, or Jeffrey.
And I'm with you. I agree with you there. Unless, of course, the injury bug happens. But, man, you know what? I'm done saying the word injury anymore because it goes for any player in the league. I don't care what they have. I'm just done saying the word. I'm not going to say it anymore. You're never going to hear it come out of my mouth again. So there. But yeah, I like it. It looks like a solid lineup to me. It got a lot of players I like, a couple I don't like so much. But again, if we all agreed on the same players, it wouldn't be a fun game to play. And you got to have an edge somewhere. So look, it's been a great show. First time you and I have worked together. I love it on the air.
Well, we've worked together for a while, but this is the first time.
Yeah, first time on the air. That's right. I wanted to make that clear.
I'm the only team, by the way, that has 3 quarterbacks on the roster. It took Cam Newton, Andrew Luck, and Phillip Rivers. There's one team.
Oh, you got Rivers too. I totally missed that.
Yeah, there's one team that only has 1 quarterback. That's Team 12. Dak Prescott's their quarterback. I got to be honest with you. I absolutely hate this team. Dak Prescott's their quarterback. They got Kelsey, Tyreek Hill, Melvin Gordon, Kenny Golladay, Austin Eckler, Latavius Murray, Deion Lewis. Now, if Melvin Gordon comes back, that's fine. But I don't see a running back 2 on this team unless they're thinking of using Austin Eckler as their running back 2.
Yeah, that's tough. You don't want to start Gordon and Eckler.
Right. So I guess
it would have to be Murray.
I'm not crazy about this team. And that's very weird because I love the 12th spot this year in a lot of drafts, but I think they could have structured this team a little bit better. A team that I do like is team number 6 with Devontae Adams, and then they went 3 straight running backs with Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, Derrick Henry, and they got Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback. Evan Ingram's their tight end. If Derrick Henry pans out and Leonard Fournette bounces back, and Dalvin Cook, I know it's a lot of ifs, but if Dalvin Cook has healthy, this guy could have 3 top 10 running backs.
He might, but then he totally sacrifices wide receivers. I mean, I like Devontae Adams and Mike Williams. I love Mike Williams. I always have. D.D. Westbrook is definitely not a 3 to me.
That's fine, but you know what? I think a wide receiver 3, I'd rather have Evan Ingram, where he got Evan Ingram as an elite top 5 potential tight end than a better wide receiver 3.
Yeah, but there were still guys on the board that I like better than at wide receiver that I like better than Westbrook. Allison was still on the board. Sanders was still on the board. Crowder was still on the board. All guys I would take before Westbrook. So to me, I'm just not a big. Even MVS was there. I would have taken over Westbrook. Okay. And then after that, I mean, Traquan Smith. Look, he's going to be battling with Ted Ginn all year. If Ted Ginn was no longer there, I would like Traquan Smith more. But they're basically the same player. They run the 9 route. They're fast. They get down the field. It is what it is. They either hit or they totally miss. And I don't like them in season-long leagues. In best ball, absolutely. And then to follow it up with Albert Wilson, I like Albert Wilson, but the man can't stay healthy. He just can't stay healthy, and he's not healthy now. Trey Quinn, I do like, especially in PPR, because he's the one wide receiver on Washington I would take a chance on. And I know you were talking about him early, that you were thinking of picking him up there too.
Yeah.
So he's the only one that's really got that set position set in stone in Washington. So I like that, but man, just not a big fan of his early receivers. So
how about team 9 with Russell Wilson at quarterback, Mike Thomas, Calvin Ridley, Curtis Samuel, MVS, Geronimo. Oh, he got MVS and Allison. We talked about that.
Yep.
I didn't realize he got both of them. And then his running backs are Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs. That's a really good team as well.
Yeah, good, solid team. And actually, I do want to say you weren't actually the only team that had 3, because Team 10 got 3 too, because they got Haskins really late.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah, me either. I just saw it now. But good, solid draft all along. And like I said, these are some of the best players in the world. So we may not like their team, but I'm sure they have reasons.
Keep in mind, the team that you draft by week 6, a lot of roster turnover happens.
Right.
Injuries pop up. Bye weeks pop up. NFL players get traded. You don't know what's always going to happen in the NFL. That's why your fantasy football championships are built at the draft, but they're won on the waiver wire. And I'm an absolute waiver wire warrior. It's something I look forward to each and every week. So your draft is crucial, but it's a building block.
How many leagues do you play in where you have to do waivers?
What do you mean? All my leagues are waivers.
Yeah, no, I mean, but how many are we talking about?
How many leagues am I in total?
Yeah.
This year?
Yeah.
5.
Ooh. Okay. Tell me if you would like waivers as much if you did 30.
No, see, that to me is not fun.
Well, that's why I like best ball.
Well, best ball is one thing, but I got out of nearly all of my industry leagues, except one of them. I got out of two of my home leagues. I dropped the Dynasty team a couple of years ago. I don't have fun playing against my own team every week, and that's what happens when you do too many leagues.
I don't. That doesn't bother me at all. I don't worry about that. Once I have all my teams set, lineup set, I don't look at anything until all the games are played. I don't check my scores. There's nothing else I could do unless I have to make a late change for a late game or a Monday. Yeah, I don't ever check them until the Monday night games are over, and then I go back and look at them. Bill, I played in 172 leagues last year, Bill.
Oh, why?
Well, because most of them were best ball. I love to draft. It's my favorite part of this whole thing is draft. I could draft multiple teams every single day of the week and be happy as a clam. 26 of those last year were full season leagues that I had to do the waivers on. And my spreadsheet that I use for them is freaking huge. It just has, every league has its own pages, and it automatically updates right from MFL, which is basically, for those best balls, I use MFL a lot because most of them are free leagues. They're just fun leagues just to do.
Right.
But it's changed this year. Ever since I joined FFChamps, I find it hard to find time to actually draft.
I was just going to say, Jim, I'm so busy during the fantasy season that we have expert advice. We have one-on-one live chats. We do a lot of radio shows. We do a lot of videos. The fantasy season for me is crunch time. It's work. That's why I drink so much coffee all night. I'm up until 2:00 in the morning, and I'm awake by 6. So I'm
not the only one that does that. Cool. That's good to know.
Having too many leagues just interferes with me helping not only my own teams, but all the members at FFChamps and everything that we're doing at full time. And we have another project that we're working on that we're really excited about. So all my friends don't do fantasy full time, so they can be in 10 leagues, 15 leagues. I'm the opposite. Fantasy is my job. Playing in leagues is more of the hobby. So I had to dial back the hobby stuff and just focus on trying to really be a top analyst in the game. And I think I've accomplished that a lot by cutting out a lot of these leagues. Best ball is different. Best ball is totally different. You draft and you're done.
Yeah, right.
But doing the weekly waiver wire, doing the weekly start and sit, it's a lot, and it adds up. I like to dial it back. I like to root for my teams. I like to root for my individual players. I hate when I'm going against Patrick Mahomes and I own them in 3 leagues.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The one play that wins you a game in one league is the same play that loses you a game in another league.
I hate it.
Happens all the time.
I hate it.
That's why I don't look at scores until they're done, because that would drive me nuts. My wife has played in 2 fantasy leagues fantasy football leagues for work. Won them both. She said she's done. She's going out on top. She don't want to play no more.
Nice.
But she used to drive me crazy because every 10 minutes she was checking her scores.
That's
I'm like, put it away.
Oh,
and driving me crazy.
And by the way, that doesn't even bring up the fact that daily fantasy has now such an impact on my life too, with all my DraftKings and FanDuel lineups.
Oh, there you go.
It's a lot going on, man. It's a great time of year. I love being busy. I love the game of fantasy football. I love the game of NFL. I think we did a great show tonight. We were on for 2 hours and 15 minutes, like it was nothing. And we didn't really prepare anything between the two of us. We didn't have a show outline, and I don't think there was more than 2 or 3 seconds of dead air time. So clearly we both love to talk about it. We're really excited about what we're going to be doing this season on FFChamps.com, on Full-Time Fantasy, on Sports Illustrated, on some of the other projects that we're going to be working on. And it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to help people win their leagues. That's what we do best, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to doing some more of these with you. And, I love this new software we're using. It's definitely made everything so much easier. Even in the Google Hangouts, this was so much easier. Plus the interactivity involved in it. So I love this. This is going to be great for us going forward. And I'm glad we were able to find it. So we will be saying good night to you all now. Thank you for coming out and joining us. We definitely appreciate it. This is FFChamps.com. also associated with fulltimefantasy.com, also associated with sportsillustrated.com. The list is growing, folks, and it's continuing to grow. There's going to be more happening even soon.
Yep.
Besides that, and of course, you got the Full Time Fantasy Podcast Network, 17 podcasts with different podcasts coming out each and every day. You can find them at the Full Time Fantasy website. You can find them on the FFChamps website. I post them all the time on Twitter and Facebook. So definitely come out and check us out. Bill, tell everybody where they can find you outside of this.
Main place, FFChamps.com. Use promo code 2019. Get $40 off your premium membership. You can follow me on Twitter at Bill Enright as well.
And of course, I am Jim Day. You can follow me. My couple of podcasts, the WTF Fantasy Football Podcast, Wednesday nights with Tony Cicada and Mike Blewett. And of course, the Friday night podcast, FFChamps After Dark with Andy Singleton. Although we are looking for a new co-host. Our last co-host had to leave. So we're still looking for a third co-host on that show. So we'll be doing that soon. But, a lot of great things going on right now. And as Bill said, come on over and check out FFChamps if you never have before. Bill's been in the top 10 of the draft rankings. The draft rankings for Fantasy Pros the last 3 years running, folks. The man just got it down. So, you want consistency. That's what we're talking about. So come check us out.
One edit there. Last year, top 5 in draft accuracy, and 2 years before that were third place and ninth place in in-season rankings. So we got to cover your. We got you covered.
Okay, there you go. There you go, folks. And that's the reason why you want to come check us out. Plus all the great tools we have over there, our customizable cheat sheets, the draft tracker that Bill was showing you earlier, takes you right through the draft you're actually doing, shows you who's still left on the board, gives you suggestions for players you might want to take with your next pick. And it's not based on just the team you are drafting. It's based on all the other teams and what they've taken as well. Yep. So, it's a nice little wrinkle there. It takes into account every other team when it makes suggestions to you. We have a mock draft tool at FFChamps as well. It's just a lot of different things that we have going on over there. So you should come check us out. And once again, I'm going to put the promo code on the board one last time. Get $40 off a premium membership at FFChamps right now. And not only that, with that premium membership, you also get access to our DFF site, which is gppmaster.com. Yeah. And you also get a free Survivor game where if you win, you can get a free seat to next year's Sports Illustrated World Championship in Vegas. So, there's a lot of things involved in this, all for with $40 off. It's a no-brainer. Come check us out. You'll be glad you did. We are out, folks. Everybody have a great night.
Good night.